Good evening, good evening, good evening. At the moment, it's just me and your man IQ on the stream. I don't know if any of the other regulars will be popping by. This was an Omen Owl chosen topic. I don't know if he'll pop in at any point. I don't know if it's actually just having a hissy fix. I haven't picked one of his topics. Could that be what it is?
I don't know.
Maybe it works. No. It's my job to prod Saxius into having hissy fits. I think that's the general idea.
We all poke and prod each other, don't we? Part of the fun.
Well, we do. That's what mates do. They poke and prod and torment, and it's called banter, mate. In it. Right. Hope you're all doing well. Straw Piglet's commented in chat, but I don't see anybody else. He has.
I see 4 people watching.
I see 5 on YouTube. I've got a YouTube window open as well. So if you're here, say hello. And if you wish to join us, there is a link in the Discord in the usual place. So that's you may click on it, and if I recognize your name, I'll let you in. Hello, P Skagdad. Nice to see you.
Is it not Skagdad?
It's Skagdad.
Yeah, but the P is silent.
I don't know if the P is silent.
I guess technically it's capitalized, the S, so maybe it is P.
I don't know. Hello, Bishop. Hello, Crafting Gamer. Good evening, fellas. So Skagdad, are you Skagdad or Skagdad or P Skagdad? Just let us know. Is the P silent? Should we refer to you as Skagdad or Skagdad?
The P is silent, like when you go for a midnight piss.
A midnight is. so that's what it'd be if you had a silent P.
You're not wrong there. You're not wrong.
But no, I get what you're saying. Yes.
No, you got me with my own style of pun. Well done.
Yeah. It's called I've been a dad for 20 years.
So it's P-Skag. It's P-Skag. You were right, John.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful name, by the way, mate.
Sounds like a character in our Call of Cthulhu game, because we've just been through Italy. And that is an Italian name.
Italian, right? Yeah.
I could easily have had a Scaglione in the game. Or if you're around by me in Birmingham, it'd be Scaglione.
Scaglione.
Hello, Andy. How are you doing? So we do have 9 people in chat now, which is nice to see. As I'm going to put out the invitation again. If anybody wishes to join us, the link is in the usual place in the Discord, in the stream invites bit. I have put the Discord link in for both are right. Okay. You're not fussy. That's what you're saying, Skagdad. You're not fussy.
Well, I guess it depends on where you live. If you live in Italy, then you do the original pronunciation, wouldn't you? But if you were in the UK or America or Canada or somewhere, it might be different.
Yeah.
Especially if you're from northern UK. Scaglione.
Or Birmingham, Scaglione.
Yeah.
But of course, we are educated, are we not, Iman? We are educated.
Speak for yourself. I don't know about me.
You were.
I'm educated to A level, not degree level.
You're still educated then. You've been educated by the British education system, for what it's worth.
Well, at the time I went to college, it was optional, but now it's compulsory, so I'm no more educated than 18-year-olds would be these days,
But did you pay attention at all at school?
In high school, no. In college, yes.
Well, you've beaten half of people in.
To give you some context, I got a B in my GCSE chemistry and an A in my A-level chemistry. Now, if that doesn't show you that exams are kind of bollocks, I don't know what does.
I got an A in my GCSE geography and a B in my A-level geography, so I went the other way.
That's the way it should go, though. Like, how did I suddenly become good at something that I wasn't good at before? Like, what?
Because because a B is easier at GCSE than a B at A level.
Yes, and I got an A, so I'm like, what the fuck?
Look at me! Look at me! You're a loser. You ain't gonna be. Right. We've seeing as nobody else is joining us. Iman, tell me about the gaming experiences you've had since we last met on a stream last Wednesday.
So, Wednesday stream. After that, it was Friday Night Heroic with Saxius. I don't know if he's lurking, but if you are, announce yourself, you evil bastard. Yeah. So, I
think if he was here, he'd have told us. I think if he was here, he would have chimed in. Yeah. So probably got work.
I'll just put it in a nutshell, just for the sake of time. So, long story short, Saxius has been holding a grudge against my character for a long time because my character really likes to use his invisibility. All right. So there was a congregation of sorts going on in a church where this guy was giving this. He was called Dr. Grant. He was giving this really rousing speech about, superheroes are useless. What good are they? They never done anything for us. Look, there was things going on yesterday and they were nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, we were on the other side of town dealing with something going on there. So we weren't actually doing nothing. Anyway, so this guy goes like, yeah, we need to take this matters into our own hands. And here, I'm giving you the tools to do it. So he hands out these theater masks, like the comedy and tragedy masks. And all these yellow vials full of yellow liquid, which we know from the last session, when they drink those vials, it gives them superpowers. So at the point where they were handing out the vials, I decided to use my telekinesis and just rip the duffel bags full of vials away from him. At which point, Dr. Grant, I'm gonna just personify it. He goes, "Hero, announce yourself. Let's have this out like men, face to face." At which point I didn't say anything. I didn't move anywhere. He goes, "All right, have it your way." Takes out a vial, guzzles it, basically turns into the Hulk, punches me through a wall, and knocks me unconscious with the first punch.
Yeah. Because, yeah.
And you should have seen how much Saxius was pitching a tent. Like, he was loving it. And in fact, he even jumped the gun a little bit. He got way too excited and was like, right, that's your character dead. Move on. Forgetting that this isn't D&D and he can't just do that.
He forgot there are in a superhero game, naturally superheroes tend to be knocked out initially.
Yes.
And I remember from playing Marvel superheroes, you were pretty much unconscious unless you got a red roll on the feat table, which meant you were dying or dead or something.
Yeah, basically. So I had to pass the equivalent of a constitution check. And then I was unconscious for 1d10 rounds. If I didn't pass that check, I would have died. But I passed, so I was unconscious for 1d10 rounds, rolled a d10 and got a 5. So I had to make a constitution check, an endurance check, for every round until one of the other team members got to me and sort of stabilized me.
Right, that's fair.
But yeah, that's just my character. Obviously, there were other things going on, but in a nutshell, yeah, Saxius got his revenge on me, and he was very happy about it.
And of course, the other game you played in was last night's Call of Cthulhu.
Yes. Now, where do we start with this? Now that we've completed the whole chapter, are we allowed to give spoilers for people who might want to play it in the future, or?
I don't know. I mean, if they wanted to play it, the opportunity is there to play it in the Discord right now. So
I'll go. Okay, so I'll go as far as to say that we were in Belgrade, and we went to a little hut in the middle of the woods, a little cottage in the woods. Now, if you guys know your folklore, you know exactly what I'm referring to. And yeah, it is what you're thinking. And yes, shit went down. And yes, shit could have gone so much worse, but the dice were just about in our favor.
I should say more than that. There were 3 real key rolls. It could have been a horrible, horrible catastrophe very, very easily. Hello, Mondo. And firstly, the first thing to happen was the power check that Manfred's character passed.
Oh, yes.
Otherwise, he would have been put in an oven. He passed that check. So he
thankfully.
Then 2 characters who jumped out of the hut failed the luck roll, which meant they sort of landed facing the monstrosity, had a sanity check, and it was a 1d20 sanity loss. And guess which keeper rolled a 1?
This guy.
I rolled a 1.
This guy.
Yeah. And then there were 4 rolls actually. There was we were in the woods. You were in the woods, and you had a critical failure on your navigate. And it says in the adventure, if there is a critical failure and the navigate or track roll, then there will be something you encounter. There's a list of things to encounter. And seeing as you were fleeing from one of the Dark Young, I was like, right, let's throw a Dark Young in here. Hello, Andy. And
hello, Andy.
You came face to face with it. You failed your sanity check. You understood the.
I came face to tendrils with it. Yeah.
Yes. Face to mouth. And you, yep, indeed.
I can neck the tendril with it nearly. Yes.
Yeah. And you failed the sanity check. You'd lost enough sanity now to prompt a knowledge roll to understand what's going on, and you succeed.
Failed, no.
You passed that
roll,
which is a roll you don't want to pass. So we rolled for your bout of madness, and you got one that involved getting away, which was really rather lucky, because if you'd had one that had involved you standing there gibbering, then you would have been scoffed. And then the thing attacked Andy and got a good hit on him. And Andy, what's your dodge? 25-ish?
Oh, it's crap. It's like most of Harold's things. It's crap. Yeah.
you needed a good success in order to not be hit for 4d6 damage.
And I got an excellent, didn't I?
Yeah, you got it. You nailed it. So those 4 rolls were all basically the equivalent of an old D&D save or die type roll, and the party passed them all. The rest of them, the rolls were all over the place, but it made for some good moments. But those 4 key rolls kept characters alive.
So Call of Cthulhu definitely has it. The reputation precedes it. You know what I mean? It has this reputation of being really brutal. And for the most part, this adventure hasn't been that brutal, but this part was that brutal.
It had
and it could have gone so much worse.
Yeah. And you got the part, because you were the party, got 2 critical hits with your shots while you were in the cottage against the witches. Blowing witch brains out everywhere.
Who was it that got the critical on Xerxes?
Manfred, I think.
Was it? Okay, yeah. So Manfred got the critical on Xerxes, the youngest one, and then Anne got the critical on the oldest one.
Yeah, on Barbara.
And the walls of the cottage went slurp, slurp, slurp. Yes.
They did indeed. The walls of the cottage enjoyed consuming the brains.
Yeah,
of its own.
Releasing digestive enzymes that were doing 1 point of damage per round as well.
1d3 points of damage per round. You just got lucky with the
was it 1d3? Okay.
Yeah.
We were hurting.
We did get lucky.
You did, yes. So the dice landed in your favor. But that's the way the game goes. Andy, in addition to Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, I thought I'd join you because I mentioned last week I nearly managed to kill off 3 characters in my 5th edition game.
Oh, yeah.
One of them was a 12th level paladin. and the other
Good.
two
Wow.
were 7th, 8th level, whatever, who joined later. But it ties in with tonight's theme of what do the players hate, because I think they'll hate these monsters. Let me set the scene. They've been traveling through these ice caverns for less than a day, and there is a certain amount of, oh, when can we have a long rest? Which I say, not for another 8 hours at least. So they've gone into this place. They've gone up to the second floor. Half of them have. And there is an aberration monstrosity thing, which is on display. It's tied to the ceiling by metal, strings and things. It's got like a sand dune moor at one end, and it's about 30 feet long, and it's got a stinger at the other end. It's like some sort of horrible worm, and it's got cilia dangling down from it.
Ugh.
And they're up there looking at this, and of course they're thinking, it's going to come to life. It's going to come to life. There are 4 pillars that surround it as like part of the architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the characters is part druid, and he'd been having a bit of a bad time. So he went, I'll wild shape into a polar bear, get more hit points. Okay, that's fine. And he foolishly said, I'm looking for a chew toy. And I start chewing on one of the cilia, one of the dangling bits from this creature. Now, by this time, they had already found the plaque at the front, which says what it is, and they'd read it. It's in Draconic. One of them can read it out loud. Everyone heard, with the warning, do not touch the exhibit. And he's there with his mouth around this thing, and I say, oh, really? You chew toy? Okay. That's when the 4 columns that are actually spitting mimics come to life and attack them with globs of acid and pseudopods and teeth. And they had a hard time.
I think a round of applause for Andy for challenging higher level 5th edition characters in a creative manner. Yes,
Well,
I think
it's actually in the module. It's in. I'm running bits of Rime of the Frost Maiden, and it's actually in there. But it's not paying attention to what you're told and doing what you want, which is fine. But yeah, it was entertaining in a way, and they did enjoy it. But it's also this whole thing with 5th edition of, I am not letting them have a long rest until they do another 8 hours of whatever, because they can only have one every 24 hours.
Yeah.
They are starting to whine about it. It's such a shame. And they say, oh, we're going to hole up there. I think that's what they're going to do tomorrow night. They're going to stay in this place, barricade themselves in, and try and rest for 8 hours and then do their long rest. Except by that time, they're going to have a load of enemies surrounding them, and they're not going to get a chance anyway. So it's going to be fun, because they're nearly out of spells and healing and everything else. So they're going to have to get creative. But I thought that might kick you off with what players hate.
Well, yes. I mean, we are specifically on the topic of monsters that players hate, and monsters' abilities that players hate. And that's the key thing here. But I think Andy's touched on one of the key aspects of certain abilities, and that is when you take players' choices away from the players. Not 100%, but you put them in a position where they can't do what they want exactly when they want to.
Exactly, yeah.
Because there is a drift in the way the game has gone in terms of player empowerment. And this is despite the current edition of the Dungeon Master's Guide having lots of stuff in there which a DM can use to make the game more perilous, more deadly. And it does say you can say no to your players. But these are all the bits of the Dungeon Master's Guide that either DMs don't use or players rebel against. And I think it's a shame, because what games do we remember more than any other? They're not the ones that the hard ones. They're not the ones that you rampaged through. It's not the time your party of 5th and 6th level characters slaughtered a whole tribe of goblins. It's that time that your party of 5th and 6th level characters ran singed, screaming from that dragon that they foolishly awoke, that is busy eating the horses. It's those sort of moments. K5K says, let's get it out there. Spectres 2 level drain. We're going to come to level drain in a bit, but
yeah, level drain, ability drain, good old stuff. Yes,
all the old-fashioned stuff. Yes. A lot of things that have been taken away from more modern versions of D&D. So, I mean, I think the general point is, I mean, we as old school players, we know that those things that we remember are those moments where either an amazing solution is dreamt up to a problem, or times when things get hairy, like last night's Call of Cthulhu game. You were lost in the forest.
Oh yeah,
and you needed to succeed on 3 navigation or tracking rolls to get out of the forest. And when I went, Iman, what did you roll? 100? You did, didn't you? Was it 100 or 99? Yeah. Nice one.
Yeah. So I rolled a 1 on a sanity check right at the start of the session. Great. Yeah. Then I rolled 100 when it mattered.
When it really mattered, yes. When it really, really mattered. Yeah, and that's
I mean, we all rolled different things, and none of us knew except Oliver, who got a very, very good score on his tracking or whatever, or navigation. Knew exactly where to go, and we're all going, "Oh, it's that way. No, it's that way. No, it's that way."
Yeah. I think Xnard Prime makes hello RPG Dad. I think Xnard Prime makes. I mean, it does make a good point here. Monsters hated by players because they're unchallenging is a distinction for monsters that players hate that are an impossible challenge. Some middle way, but it's usually a bit of a DM mistake if you force them to fight something that is impossible challenge. And DMs do make mistakes. It's all part of learning. Difficult does not mean impossible. Like last night's thing in the hut, the correct time to have blown the whistle was the moment that Manfred's character was put on the skillet.
Oh, really?
That's when the whistle should have been blown, because that would have given you that moment to.
I think that might have been when I had the phone call.
So there is a way of getting through that with minimal risk. The hut wouldn't have risen onto its chicken legs. Baba Yaga, by the way, everybody in chat. The hut wouldn't have risen onto its chicken legs by then. The 2 witches would have paused, and you'd got the arm that you needed, and you could have got the hell out there and then.
Well, that ties in with what I was describing, because, again, if one of them hadn't decided to touch the exhibit and start chewing on a bit of it, nothing would have happened.
No.
And suddenly they were fighting for their lives.
Yeah, so it's one of those. It was one of those things where, if a situation has a possible solution that is very low risk, and most Call of Cthulhu adventures do have some solution that is minimal risk, but it can often be quite difficult to put it into practice.
Yes,
but that's a challenge for the players. It's for the players to work out. But if they miss it and it then thrusts them into a life and death situation, it's on them. It's on them. And Major's right here, knowing that a creature is potentially unbeatable, is something players need to learn. Yeah. There is a trend where players automatically assume that anything the DM presents is there to be killed.
Yeah, running away is a valid option.
Yeah. A great example of that is the 5th edition version of Tomb of Horrors. They nerfed the Demi-Lich at the end to such an extent where a party of the level it's going to be a hard fight, but can feasibly take on the Demi-Lich. Whereas the original purpose of the adventure was the players had to be very clever and use the dungeon against him, because unless they got very lucky, they weren't going to beat it in a straight fight. That's quite simply the way it is. But again, some adventures are designed for clever players. And some players do like to sleepwalk through to the fights. It is a
that's what they want.
It's a playstyle thing. Yeah,
they want to have a fight with it. They want to go in there and bash things, and some things are not bashable, or not not without sensible planning.
Yes.
And how many
Hello,
characters or players do that?
Old school. A lot of old school players do. Those of us who've cut our teeth. Those of us who've cut our teeth on basic expert AD&D, I noticed there's a lot of planning involved with those players. I mean, we talked last week about how Straw Piglet likes to try and plan. It's because he's an old school player, and that is his favorite part of the game, planning. He's not someone who particularly wants to role play all the conversations or dash headlong into fights. He tries to plan because that is how you survive in basic D&D.
And the funny thing with that is, if you think about it, planning it's part of the role playing. It can be. You say, don't want to role play the conversations, but that's what you can do in doing it.
Mm-hmm. Now, Exnard Prime mentions here, as a player, the worst monster he hates is the GM's Mary Sue pet player character that's encouraged and allowed to be a covert parasite to the whole party. There's a time and a place for NPCs. And I have had powerful NPCs go along with parties before, usually for a reason. But usually with the consent of the player characters, or in fact, almost always. And there's often a story reason for it. So, but the key is to not put that individual front and center all the time. They can have their moments, like all the player characters are supposed to have their moments, but you've got to remember, it's a team. It's a team effort. XR Prime, I actually disagree with this. I disagree with this statement here. We had a situation last night where briefly one of the characters became an adversary, didn't he, Andy?
I'm innocent. Nothing to do with me. Yeah.
But to be fair, it's not like he chose to do that.
Yes, it is.
Well, Andy chose.
Well, not really.
Yes, it is.
You failed a dice roll and you role played the result. That's what you did.
Yeah,
I was thinking of doing it anyway, but I thought there needed to be. Was there a possible way out? That's all I was thinking. It was going to happen otherwise, and at some point, it is going to happen. So, if you remember that, if you cast your mind back when you first found Harold was, how can we put this, a little bit on the extreme side when dealing with cultists?
Yes.
At that time, when Oliver and I think it was Buck came back and found him, Oliver said, or Manfred said, Oliver has his hand on the butt of his revolver.
Yeah.
So, things could still happen.
For those in chat who don't know what's happening, according to the rules of Call of Cthulhu, when you hit 0 sanity, the player character is taken away from the player and the player character goes out of the campaign. Now, I think that actually can be a little bit of a waste, because in the hands of the right sort of player who's willing to play it naturally, constructively, and authentically, I think it can be a really entertaining part of the game. Andy's character, Harold, Andy's character has 0 sanity, has no chance of coming back. He has given in to Ithaca. And Andy now has him muttering in that Cthulhu language, little sort of almost prayers to Ithaca, little sort of calls to Ithaca.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling a priest last night that he should put his faith in Ithaca.
He warms the cockles of my heart, which is why I don't mind the cold.
Exactly.
Hello.
So, hello
Hey there.
Hey,
Can't
Beth.
stay long. I'm heading out to an event, but I wanted to come in and talk about monsters I hate.
Okay.
That's okay. You're talking about Andy's Cthulhu stuff. Keep going. It's quite entertaining.
So, yeah, I mean, Andy is leaning into play. I mean, he contacted me through Discord, and we've chatted about a few things about how his character might go, because he knows he's going to go. He's going to go at the right time. But last night, there was this moment where Andy said, "What is it you said? Would it be sensible now if I make a POW check to see how I react to this?" And you failed that POW check. You failed that POW check.
Quite badly.
Quite badly, yes.
Quite badly.
Which means you got in the way of the doors of the church, and you were not going to let those church doors be opened because of what was outside, and you did not.
The devil chickens. Yes.
The devil chickens, yes. You're outside running rampage around the town.
But the reason was, as well, as I said, I put my hand in my satchel to pull out my father's 45, the revolver. Yeah. And you said, I come out, I'm gripping the claw, which is this knife. And that's what triggered it, really. It's like, oh,
yes.
I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it. Yeah. No, get back. You can't come out. Yeah.
Yeah, but then the other an NPC and another player character were trying to get through the door and trying to push him out of the way. So you lashed out at them.
Yep.
Luckily for them, both of your rolls you missed.
Yes.
But it was a natural response from an insane character.
Yes.
Get away from there! No, that sort of thing.
Hey, John, I have a gift for you that I'm giving you at the event we're going to.
Oh.
I was sent a review copy of this by Chaosium.
Oh, the new one.
Oh.
Yeah.
So do not buy it because you're getting my review copy at the event. Because I'll use the PDF for the review.
Oh.
Wow.
That's the new one, isn't it? That's just come out.
Yeah. It just came out. I just got my review copy today. I'm not even going to open the book. I'm just going to use the PDF for the review.
Thank you, Bear. Thank you.
My pleasure. You're the only person I know who can get any mileage out of it.
So, having talked about that sort of situation where Andy is leaning into, you could argue that Andy's agency as a player has been diminished because he is now playing a character who is insane, but he's leaning into it. He's making the most, and you see it as an opportunity rather than. I
was going to say, as a role player, I don't feel that my agency is diminished. It's opened up in some respects because now I can play something that wouldn't normally,
There are people though who would dig their heels in about that, though, aren't there?
Yeah. But there are also people where you tell them there is an effect. It can be in any game. It can be in D&D, Cthulhu, whatever. There is an effect that is making you do something, and they wouldn't like it. They wouldn't roleplay it. They just wouldn't like it.
Well, I'm a dirty, filthy story gamer, so those people just can get up and leave my table and not come back.
Yeah.
Hello, Halakar. Hello, Game Masters. Hello, Daryl. Nice to see people coming into chat. So, how long have you got there before you have to?
Maybe 20 minutes. I don't know. My buddy will text me when he's here. We're both going together. He's picking me up.
Then it's the Bear Show.
Then it's the Bear Show for next 20 minutes.
No, Jesus, no.
Bear, I'm going to ask you a direct question then.
Go for it.
Monsters and monsters' abilities that players hate.
That's not a question. That's a statement. Please ask. It's
a statement. I'd like you to talk about.
You just lost Jeopardy because you couldn't put it in the form of a question, man.
Jeopardy's a stupid quiz.
Stupid. Pub quizzes are the best.
Yes, pub quizzes are better. But the question master should ask questions.
What are some monsters that they hate?
Monsters that people hate and why? Give me an example. Let's discuss it.
I hate giant spiders.
Why do you hate giant spiders?
Because I'm an arachnophobe. I don't need to visualize that crap in my head, and please don't bring visual aids.
I agree with you on that, Bear.
But do they have an ability that would make a mechanical ability that would make you hate them as a player?
Mechanical? No. If you're going to pick mechanical, kobolds.
Yeah.
Kobolds can really ruin your day. Because if you swarm someone with 20 kobolds, they're going to have a bad day. I don't care if they're level 5. Those little bastards can attack you more than 3 at a time, mechanically. They're small creatures. They can have like 6 of them dogpile you in one. And look, eventually one of them's going to get a 20. And it doesn't matter how big and badass you are, that 20 is going to get through all your defenses, and kobolds ruin your day. Imagine you're trying to fight the kobolds, and you got 2 pushing up your left leg, while the other 3 are jumping on your cloak and trying to pull you down, and all this kind of. Like, I mean, that's use them smart, and you'll piss players off every time to the point where they fear kobolds.
That's the fun of them. Yep.
Oh yeah, okay. Exile Prime talk about deliberate privilege. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
What previous posts?
So let's start by talking about kobolds, because I know that they can raise people's ire, and I know the whole concept of kobolds becoming what's that whole Tucker's kobolds thing.
Yeah,
about intelligent kobolds making lots of traps and being incredibly wily and incredibly awkward. Game Masters, thank you.
Oh my god!
Thank you. PBR Street Gang, CBK Play, O'Neill Flynn, Bishop, RPG Dad, Insidious Bliss, Edwin, Ian McKenna, Nerdy Ogre, Master Blaster. There we go.
Number of regulars there.
Great.
Yeah.
For once, I recognize most of the names.
Yeah. If you happen to be lurking and you've just received a membership from Game Masters, then just a little thank you wouldn't go amiss, because that's just generosity. There we go. Nice one, Bishop. I'm going to flag up a few comments here. I knew Halakar would come in with that statement. Right. Yes. Right. So, I think there are certain things that have come out at certain times in the evolution of gaming, which people have a reason to dislike. I once read an article on how Tomb of Horrors was the worst adventure ever published because it gave the green light to DMs to use dickish traps. I didn't agree with the article. I thought the article was somewhat basic and puerile. Maybe they were just trying to stir up conversation. Perhaps they were. I've also seen criticism. Do you remember those? What were those trap books? Grimtooth's trap books?
They're lovely.
I remember them flying around in the 80s, and suddenly DMs.
Oh yeah, everyone loved Grimtooth's traps.
Yeah,
and I think the next one was Tucker's Kobolds, which gave a green light to DMs to absolutely, if they weren't already, torment players with these little dungeon vermin that were irritating, that weren't worth much XP, rarely had a lot of treasure. If you use the tables, there was not a lot to gain from ever taking them out, but they were little dicks who would use pits and nets and poison and little warrens of tiny passages that characters couldn't squeeze into. Now, yes, I've heard the statement say that kobolds haven't got high intelligence. My issue with that comment is there is the assumption that a monster intelligence scale works in exactly the same way as humans.
No, they're cunning little buggers. That's the difference, isn't it?
Well, okay, but hang on. If we go from the basis that the orc is the opposite of the elf, and in the pig orcs, the human, the goblin is the opposite of the dwarf or the halfling, the kobold is the opposite of the gnome.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that cunning it's a racial trait. It doesn't matter how intelligent they are naturally cunning.
Yep.
I mean, for example, in D&D terms, a squirrel would have animal intelligence because it is an animal. An animal, maybe semi-intelligence, maybe low semi. A dog might have low semi-intelligence. Have you seen how clever squirrels are when they need to get to their nuts?
Yeah, you watch that guy on YouTube, the NASA engineer who made the squirrel obstacle course in his backyard to keep them away from the bird feeder. It's absolutely hilarious.
Was that Mark Rober?
Yeah.
I've watched
Brilliant.
that.
Oh my God, Sax's arm is going to fall off.
I know.
Go on, Saxes.
Let me just read from the creature's entry on the combat. This diminutive race also enjoys setting up concealed pits with spikes, crossbows, and other mechanical traps. They usually have viewports, murder holes near these traps, so they can pour flaming oil, missile weapons, and drop poisonous insects on their victims. What I am taking from kobolds is that they are the equivalent of going up against the Viet Cong. They are all about effectively using traps, effectively being dirty, and effectively making use of anything that can make your life as hellish as possible. And I would not take it away from them going down the goblin route of smearing undue substances onto their weaponry to then force you to then roll save versus poison or constitution saves as they forcefully inject you with actual poisons and what's it called, unsanitary weaponry, biological weaponry. So that's just from reading the combat side, but that's often where I go to when it comes to a creature, is that I look at what are they described to be under their combat section. And these ones are described to be very much around, okay, they've got their warrant, they will be very much about traps, whereas the goblins are going to be a lot more about, well, we breed like rabbits. We are going to be more numerous than the kobolds, and holy hell, we are also going to be dangerous because we believe in numbers, superior numbers. And the kobolds, insanity finally took him.
Yes.
And that's how I go about it. Anyway, I think we can take the banner down.
Yes. But I mean, I think my general point here is intelligence is, in human terms, is quite a wide-ranging stat. It doesn't just mean quite simply how clever you are. It means how well educated you are, how strong your memory is, how well how good you are at picking up new ideas. Now, I would come back and say, yes, I would probably classify as kobolds as low to average intelligence. They might have the memory of a sieve. They're probably illiterate. They've certainly never been to school in any way, shape, or form. They wouldn't have any real knowledge beyond their lair and what they've encountered, some of which they may well have forgotten. But there will still be a part of it. There could easily be a part of their intelligence where they excel at, and still be of low or average intelligence. So by looking at that sort of 8 to 10 on the scale, I don't think we should pigeonhole it and think, well, if a human is 8 to 10 intelligence, they'll be like this. I think the creatures, a creature with 8 to 10 intelligence could think very, very differently. So I'm not a fan of assigning monsters stats on a human or player character like scale all the time.
Right.
There's different types of agility, different types of charisma, different types of wisdom, different types of intelligence.
Well, this is why you read all the monsters blocks.
Yes,
it's not just the stats.
Exactly.
Anyway, I also want to bring up Tucker's kobolds are not new. I did some research. You will find the exact same thing in Dragon Mountain.
Okay. And that was early 90s?
It's second edition. I don't know about the year.
So we can assume late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. But
Hello,
yeah,
Dirty Hobbies. Hello, you're wrong.
They do the exact same in Dragon Mountain, where the kobolds are armed with the treasure of a ancient red dragon, given tactical information, training from the red dragon, yada yada yada. I mean, they are just nightmarish, and they're made to be because they are the protectors of the dragon in the areas where it knows adventures are going to be coming from. So they're specifically trained to be an obstacle against the players in that area.
So I think I don't mind the idea of Tucker's kobolds in the sense that it fits in with the lore of the game, and the idea of having a very cunning little creature. I say, just look out in your garden, watch a squirrel, watch a cat. I remember one of our dogs. She came limping into the kitchen, so we gave her a treat, and she limped away because her paw was poorly. The next day, she came limping into the kitchen. Oh, have you got a poorly paw? We gave her a treat. She ran away. She'd faked a poorly paw because she knew it would give her a treat.
Yeah, there's the story of the cat that may or may not be true, that was a stray cat, kept watching people go into the fish market and buy fish with cash, and then just showed up one day with a leaf in its mouth and sort of waited for the guy to take the leaf and give it a fish. It's from, I think, Turkey or something like that. And so, now whether it's true or not, could just be one of those internet stories. But, that when we hear a story like that, we don't go, oh, absolute bullshit. We go, well, I could see a cat doing that. Like, I've been around cats. I know how clever they can be. I've been around dogs. I know how clever they can be, et cetera, right? Yeah. Clever is not a measure of intelligence. And that's one of the big downfalls of D&D, is that it loads everything into intelligence and wisdom, right? But it leaves out, there's no room for cunning. You need cunning. Cunning is a thing, I
don't think it's just D&D. I mean, it's most
games. Okay, it's lots of games, but I'm currently on a war against D&D, Andy. Jeez.
But yes, just trying to calm you down. You know that. But no, it's the stat thing, isn't it? It's the simplify it.
Yeah. Is there a distinction between animals and monsters? I don't. It depends.
Is there a distinction on the nature of the monster? Monsters and characters?
No. And yes, animals can be very clever, but yes, they can be very stupid. I mean, yeah. I've got a spaniel. I've got a spaniel. Spaniels are they're beautiful dogs,
but they're inbred all to hell.
She's a crossbreed spaniel. So,
okay.
Yeah. And she's so easy to train. She's so well behaved. But there are certain times when she's really stupid. Really, really stupid. But on a dog scale, she's probably most of the time.
That's what I mean. She's stupid in terms of human stuff that humans do, but in terms of what dogs do, that's probably normal or even smart.
So there's a test you can do with your dog, which is basically this. You show them the treat, and then you put it under a bucket. If they just sniff around the edge of the bucket and keep pushing it with their nose and all that, you got pretty much an average dog. They're not that bright. But if the dog figures out and knock over the bucket and I get the treat, they're basically have the problem-solving skills of like a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, which is very intelligent for a dog. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, as we have, we wrap up treats for her at Christmas time. So she has her presents. We hand her her present, and what she has learnt is that if she opens it very, very gently, and very gently takes the paper away, and she'll do that, she'll get a treat. And every year, you see her with her Christmas presents, and she'll just nibble around the edge and just carefully tear the paper off, because she knows she gets fussed.
Monsters I hate in D&D, dogs. There we go. Since we'll get this back on topic. Yeah, your dog's IQ jumps 30 points when food is on the line. Of course. And no, we never underestimate the stupidity of people.
All right. So go back to monsters that players hate. This is certainly not dogs, unless you're going to be bringing in some of the features of wolves when they do pack tactics and they pounce you and they trip you and they get you on the ground, meaning that when you get back up, you can use the mechanics of like, that's a movement action, that's an attack of opportunity. You now have 3 wolves that are pouncing you, and they will get the bonuses of the fact that you are on the ground, and you are, if it's 5th edition, it'll be at advantage. If it's older editions, it'll be a +1/+2. Have
and
fun,
it's
kids.
multiple attacks as well and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. But that'll be every time, and they'll trip you every round. So, yeah, there you go. That's what I would do. Why? Because the players need to die. I mean, characters.
Monsters that players hate. Saxius.
I'm
Absolutely.
not a monster. I'm
You're
a force of
such a
nature.
monster.
I'm a force of nature. You
You're
know
a
what you got.
monster, sir. You're a war crime happening in a game.
I have yet
Remember-
to see the Geneva Convention for fantasy and other RPGs.
And you're glad it's not there.
I'll kickstart it next year.
It is going to exist, and it'll be because of you.
Yeah, you are Canada in this scenario, sir.
I am proud. One of you.
Right.
One of you. One of you.
So,
All right. Well, other things that is going to be making the players sit down and cry. I like to occasionally just drop in a ghost, because the old version is like, you see a ghost, that's it. That's 50 years. Humans, get out.
yes. Aging effects. Okay, let's go on to aging effects. I can't remember the last time I used a ghost.
I can. My players were level 4.
For how long?
Well.
I think undead. I think undead in general.
They've been watered down in 5th edition, certainly. I think.
That's fine. All right, but let me ask another question here. Aging effects. Do you then make them roll system shock?
You should.
Oh, hell yeah.
You should do.
Yeah. Okay.
There.
Fine.
You want to make zombies dangerous and players hate zombies? Don't tell them, but have your zombies function like horror movie zombies, that if they get bit or attacked or hit by the zombie and it does damage, they're now infected with the zombie virus, and the only thing that'll remove it is the cleric remove disease spell.
And also, when they beat it down to 0 hit points, bits of it start crawling after you, like the hands or the legs or the whatever.
Oh, yeah,
you don't need. Yeah, Bodocs suck. I hate Bodocs. Good call, Coco. Bodocs suck. Look at them and die.
They did that in Curse of Strahd when they had like the Strahd zombies. It's like, okay, you've done damage to it now. The arm falls off, but it's got X amount of HP. All right.
Yep.
So that bite would be a save versus poison, I would take.
You say versus disease.
Sure.
I mean, in the D&D terms, it'll probably be the same thing.
No, I like this.
Fortitude save, whatever saves you're using.
Yeah, whatever save you're using, yes. Or in Call of Cthulhu, a con check.
Yes, I did, Holocar. I watched the entire Call Check series during the pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, undead. Okay, let's go on to it. We've done Tucker's kobolds. I think.
What are we back?
I think we're a little bit. I don't think our panel were very much divided on that, because apart from Iman, who we're all DMs here, and we like to be crafty. But I can understand how players would get frustrated with them, because they are creatures with a lot of pain and very little gain. Speaking of a lot of pain and very little gain, undead, because most undead, a lot low-level undead, don't have a lot of treasure. They're often found wandering through dungeons,
or in crypts, or in mausoleums, or in areas with high necrotic powers.
Yeah.
Which one's drain levels?
That is shadows, whites.
No, shadows don't drain levels; they drain strength.
You still lose shit.
But draining levels: whites 1 level, wraiths 1 level, specters 2 levels, vampires 2 levels. Level drain. Shadows do indeed drain strength, but I really think, and I think Andy's already said it, as D&D has gone on, undead have been neutered, heavily neutered.
Because players don't like save versus die, save versus suck, save versus drain. Like, players wind their way into 5th edition. By the time 5th edition rolled around, they had defanged so many things because of players whining. And it's like, you know what? I don't like D&D. But if I was going to say anything, 1st edition, 2nd edition, DX, yeah, you did monsters right. They could kill you. They could drain your levels. They could steal your strength points.
Yeah,
they're nasty. Exactly. Andy said it best. They're nasty, and they should be. They're not just bags of XP that you hit. Sean?
But no, I mean, as I said, I mean, strong and most undead. The only really scary thing about low-level undead is the fact that it will never run away. Skeletons, zombies, they'll just keep on coming. They're relentless. They're low-powered, but they're relentless. And there's not a lot to gain from the players fighting, from the characters fighting them. You got to hope you've got a cleric, force them back, get the hell out of there, because otherwise,
I think I'm out, guys.
Okay, all right.
No,
I've done there.
No, he just says to be late. That was the message, so I'm still here.
Okay, all right.
I'll tell you quickly the nastiest thing I've ever done with a skeleton. I was running a 5e game for Nooblers. They were fighting a skeleton king, and one of the players got killed in the fight and was 0 hit points on the floor, out of the fucking game, failed death saves, dead character. But they're like, we'll get him to the temple and resurrect him. We just got to keep his body safe. And I gave the skeleton a lair action or a legendary action. I can't remember which one it was, where he just basically spent a round going homina, 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 and then that dead player's skeleton crawled out of his body. Ripped its way through the flesh. Well, good luck reviving that prick.
I'm going to show you all a picture now. When I first started playing D&D back in the early 80s, the guy who taught me how to play bought a module, and he flashed a picture at me from the module. I then played that adventure as a scared 12 or 13-year-old, because I did not know where this thing was going to come in. And this is a certain encounter. If anyone can say what encounter it is or what module it is before I bring it up. Anyone in the chat might
no idea, man. Like,
just show it to us.
Can you be a little more vague?
I don't have your encyclopedic knowledge of these things. I don't play with the modules.
There was a picture in a module I saw. Guess what it was? Oh, that's a white.
It's that picture. Flash that picture to me. So every time I opened anything in any room, I was like, "Oh, is he going to jump out at me?" But it had the desired effect. It made me stop and think and play cautiously, and that's what I think undead should do. Proper undead will make players, not just the characters, but the players nervous.
Yo, Hunter.
And this is the white in B4, the Lost City. And I never got as far as it. I almost died before I got to it, but I still lived in fear of the damn thing. Thank you, Hungar. Hungar, you star, Hungar. So there, that is undead doing what undead should do. They should be horrific like that.
Yep.
And I'm just going to remove me.
Speaking of horrific, yes, that was better.
Speaking of horrific, there we are. So who did we get? Who did we get there? Patrick Farley, Tim Smith, Snipey McSendit, Marco S, and Mark's Genre Mixer. So thank you, Hungar.
Marco S.
You know Marco S?
Yeah, Marco S. I know he's
I recognize
one of my guys that came over. Nice guy.
Okay. So thank you, Hungar. You're a star.
Snipey McSendit is a funny name, though.
Yes. So, the fact that undead have become so toothless is it's a bugbear for me as a DM. I like
Undead bugbear. Yeah.
an undead bugbear. I like I like monsters. How my favorite game presents them, Call of Cthulhu. Monsters where you've got to find a way of dealing with them. Otherwise, it might be a good idea to run away. And in old school D&D, old school fantasy games, undead were those monsters. They were those monsters. And then they are no longer. So, why do people hate undead? Because they make the players feel powerless. The players think they're going to lose something. And it makes them fearful. Players don't like losing anything. Saxis, you look like you're about to say something.
Well, no, the games have changed. Like I do want to preface that. 5th edition is not 2nd edition. It's certainly not 1st edition. Game has evolved. It's moved on. That's just how it is. What I'm finding though, using the undead in some of my 5th edition games, is that some players have forgotten what necrotic damage does to the undead. And I revel in the fact that I've had players go like, I'm going to cast, Dev's Toll, or like Toll the Dead, or like other things that cause necrotic damage to a Chill Touch against this undead. I'm like, cool, plus HP, moving on. And then I just move on, and they're like, he's taking damage. I've been doing all this damage to him. It's like, yes, you have been doing a lot of necrotic damage to him. You got to keep that up.
So then, by that same token, do they get harmed by healing spells and stuff?
Of course they do.
Good.
Naturally.
Good.
Naturally. Which is also why whenever I've got players going, I want to play an undead character, of course you can. And the cleric comes over, I heal him. It's like, oh, lovely. Can I have that character sheet now? What do you mean? He healed me. Yes, he healed you. What did he just do? What are you? It's like, but that shouldn't affect me. Give me that.
So, like Nilbogs, the old Nilbog.
Exactly. So these are the things I also like, because now you've got to look at like what the players are doing and what have you, and that brings on a whole different kind of fear. Not to mention, how is the cleric going to justify that he's now going to be casting necrotic powers for a good god like, I don't know, Palor? Because that you are going to be answering to me, the DM, playing Palor, and he's not exactly going to be like, you're casting a necrotic damage on something that is very clearly an undead. Have you read my transcripts, my son? Because I'm about to read them to you with the back of my hand.
You can't read with the back of your hand. What are you talking about? That I call shenanigans.
You can call shenanigans. That's a fair point. Let's take that to the confession chambers.
I'm not getting in these small rooms with you. No.
So many old school undead had the type of powers that I see a lot of players nowadays pull faces at. We'll come to level drain, but I've had players pull faces when their characters have been paralyzed because they're not ghouls, because their characters they're missing out on their actions in a round. Okay, that's what ghouls do.
Yes, but they also eat you while you're paralyzed, and you can't defend yourself. Would you look at that? Which edition are we playing now? Is it 5th edition? Oh, would you look at that? You are paralyzed, which means each attack is now a critical attack. There are 3 attacks per ghoul. Nom nom nom. Make a new character. I've done that. We're using the scarecrows. I used their fear tactics. That was about 8 scarecrows. They're only challenged level 1. My group was level, what were they? I think they were like level 6. I almost killed 2 players with 2 playing characters with that. So they were downed. They were taking critical hits like there was no tomorrow. One of the players was able to then do like, I deflect this thing, but you can't do that when you're paralyzed, my dude. That's 5th edition. I can find ways to bring you down and get you to feel mortal again. Why? characters need to die.
Because
I will
you are
find
Sax.
the-
You
I-
should change your name from the accounting DM to the bastard DM.
No, I'm not a bastard. I play by the rules. A bastard breaks the rule. I'm accounting for the rules. You see,
That's Steppenwolf's Bastard Squad.
He's the lawful evil DM. We know this.
I'm a super lawful dude. I just played them against you. That's just looking at 5th edition. Now you're going to be having 2nd edition, 1st edition, where the ghouls, I mean, yeah, if you're an elf, good luck. You're able to resist it. Well done for you. That doesn't mean that your dwarf friend, your halfling friend, your human friends are going to be any luckier. It's just a numbers game. And, well, if you don't help them, you're going to be seeing their bodies sprawled out along the way. But this is where you need to also read the monsters' stats, because at least for the ghouls, it specifically says they focus on where the food is first and foremost, meaning the person that gets paralyzed gets jumped or dogpiled on because they will tear into them. Great, that's one less character to deal with. Move on to the next one. The player can sit and cry and be like, "Oh, it's not fair." Don't care. Wrong game, wrong DM. You knew what you signed up for. Move on to the next lots and just keep on going at it. You gotta be smart about these things, but you gotta play the ghouls like proper ghouls. They just bum rush you. They just rush in there, climb over each other. It should be terrifying. It should be 28 days later kind of deal. And I can't remember off the top of my head how quick a character, I think it's like 24 hours after they die, they then return back as a ghoul. So there's just going to be more of them if you don't do proper burials. So, if I'm a real bastard, which I'm not, I will roll randomly to see which the first person is, unless someone's at the front that the ghouls will rush. The cleric might be unlucky, and he now can't sanctify the corpses. That's not my problem. But you now got to come back down to this mausoleum. You got to put down your friends. How does that make you feel?
Well, we all know that murder hobos have no feelings. They're all just generic sociopaths who are slaves to their alignment. So I don't think they're going to feel anything. Yeah, they don't care.
That's fair enough.
Too bad, Ted. You know, I mean...
I don't know. I've gotten a nice group where they do actually go into the role playing of it's terrible putting down someone that is your former comrade, and I enjoy giving them these situations. But hey, maybe I've just been selective in the people I allow onto my table. I've dealt with murder hobos as well. I was like, okay, you don't care, great. The focus is now on just killing your characters. One story.
You should really run Cyberpunk. I think you'd enjoy running Cyberpunk a lot.
What's the specific reason?
We'll talk later.
It's dangerous.
Oh yeah, I know it's dangerous. I thought it was like, is it the kill count or is the emotional damage that I can do?
Why not both?
Oh well. Yeah,
so we'll talk offline.
Sure.
Next up in the pecking order of undead is the shadow.
Is that the strength?
Yeah, I love shadows.
Oh yeah,
I do love shadows.
Go for the fighter and remind him of Encumbrance. Hallelujah! Look at that. You can't wear your own armor.
Why go for the fighter?
Because
the magic user. Go for the weak, the one that's easy to drain down to 0 strength.
Depending on where. So, I work on the assumption that we're going to be having fighters up front along with clerics because that's how they do their breaches in my game.
But you don't see shadows coming. That's the other thing. They surprise the party. They might just be a flicking shadow against the wall as the party approach. The party might not notice that shadow is actually moving with its own accord. And as the party go past, they jump on the easiest target. That poor mage in the middle.
They don't like lights. Is that correct?
I would say they don't.
Yeah, but does that include? Let's see, shadows are 9% respectable, surroundings continue light or equivalent. But the brightest, they're 9% undetectable in all but the brightest of surroundings, such as continual lights or equivalent. Now, this might just be my groups and my experiences with them. The moment the wizards get up into a level where or the clerics where they can cast continual lights, they will cast it out like candy. But that's my experience. The ones who don't do that and just go down there with a torch, oh boy, it's feeding time. That is like a ding bell for me. It's just, what's it called? Monkey neural brains just go boink. It's like, oh, you didn't do this. Is this for real? I can actually ambush them.
I like crypt things as well, Dirty History and Hobbies. I especially like the artwork in the Fiend Folio for those. But
I love crypt things, but my God, I run them differently.
But I know shadows. I mean, players, they're going to hate shadows. They should hate shadows. They should absolutely hate shadows. Hello, Nerdio. Because they are another monster that is in there specifically to troll the players, to make them nervous. And as you say, yes, if they do dive bomb a fighter, and suddenly that fighter can no longer move properly in his heavy armor, and his prized Arnold Schwarzenegger physique is withering away as his strength is drawn from him. It's wonderful. Yeah. I could easily have Saxius moments here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head if shadows, once they kill people, if they return back as shadows. I know wraiths do that, which is why they're fun to unleash, because they'll just go around like, I'll kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you. Just unleash a wraith in a small populace. They've all got one hit die, but they'll multiply like nothing. That's... You will see the players go, that area, nope. No. We do not go there.
So, the next up in the pecking order, we go on to that hot potato, that topic that causes even old schoolers to have a Barney. Level drain. Bear, I know you've got to head out.
Not yet.
If you don't run D&D anymore, but I'm thinking of how you might introduce draining type mechanics into a game that you would run. I don't want to know about your plans for Codex Albano, if you've got anything there that's draining, but
I can't wait for the next session.
But are you a fan of lasting draining mechanics, or
you weren't there for the conversation about I took healing away from the clerics except for their channel energy, and I gave it to necromancers so they leave scars and limps?
No, I wasn't there. No, I wasn't there for that conversation. No.
Yeah, I gave the healing to
remember that.
necromancy. So then basically when they healed you, it didn't quite heal right. You got the hit points back, but now on cold days, your hip really reminds you of that battle of the orcs, or you can't quite lift your arm as well anymore. So now you have a penalty if you're trying to do like overhead shots and stuff, things like that.
So the answer is yes.
I absolutely love fucking with players. Love it, love it, love it.
I think it's fair. I mean, a level drain, specifically level drain, would only work in a level-based system, but other draining effects exist in other systems. There are, you would say, almost like the insanity mechanic in Call of Cthulhu is a slow draining of the players' of the characters' free will.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. Yeah.
No,
I'm not bothered by the draining mechanics. It's a fair enough thing. I'll run the rules as written. In my second edition game, when I got together with the group, I had no idea whether my players would like it or not, so I made a compromise and I said, for every level drain that you get, that's a month that you need to have no adventuring, complete bed rest to regain that one level. Meaning I take away game time. And you think, oh, that's not that bad. We just sit for a month. Oh, so a month of consistently me going like, oh, would you look at that 6 months by? I need 6 months of rent from you now. 6 months of events taking place. I'm going to be running my faction turns 6 times. You are going to be having all these events happening in front of you. Are you going to go out and deal with them? No. Well, before you know it, go on.
Like I said, that brings me to the point of what they've done with the draining effects in 5th edition.
Yeah.
I do not mind the fact that they replaced level drain with hit point drain. I just wish they hadn't made it so damn simple to recover from it.
No, like, well, that's why you can easily turn around and say, like, okay, well, rather than being, after a long rest, is it going to be after X amount of time, as in like 1 month in game, so on and so on. And then you just take away that little thing where, again, there has to be a sacrifice. Take the Red Hand of Doom. If you get level drain 5th edition style and you now have, all that being taken away from you, that's going to have an impact because you're going to need those long rests. They count a great deal. If you now made it so that long rests are week long as per the DMG and the optional rule from that, well, that week, and I'm going to be very transparent here, Red Hand of Doom, a lot happens in a week. You need to get a lot of things done in a week. You're not going to be getting a full week's of rest if I run you through well, if you take the Red Hand of Doom seriously and I run you through it, that week is going to be you losing out on opportunities, and that counts against you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all depending on how you want to run it. So that's all fine and dandy. But again, 5th edition has gone a different route with it, and it's gone in a more sort of like, okay, we're going to focus on the more higher fantasy, more higher powered, higher magic kind of deal, where you overcome these things, which is fine. I can work with that.
It's that speedy recovery that really gets me. That's what takes the fear out of Undead, because the players, if you run quite a free game, a sandboxy style game, that I give the players one thing I like to do when I run a fantasy game, a D&D style game, is the players have pretty much free reign over the pace of their exploration. They can leave the dungeon. Yes, things might happen in the dungeon if it is a dungeon, and I don't want to take that freedom from the players, that ability to retreat when the time comes for it, because I consider that to be clever play.
Trap them in the dungeon. Have the dungeon collapse behind them.
You can't do that all the time, though. You can't do that all the time. You can do it from time to time.
But that's where I've got them at the moment in this 5th edition one, where they've come into these ice caves. It's been less than a day. They haven't retreated because they're meant to be going somewhere and doing something, and they're now down very low on spells. They've suffered. They're a bit damaged, and they are not going to get a long rest for a while.
Oh yeah, there might be penalties to leaving in terms of the time-related quests. That is entirely fair, but the players have the choice to forfeit there.
As I said to you before, and next year I'm probably going to do it. I'll start a new campaign, 5th edition, but I'm going to have house rules, which is basically long rest. You do not recover your hit points. You can spend your hit dice the same way you do for short rest, and you will slowly recover, but you don't get everything back after a long rest.
Yeah.
That'll make them
fair enough. But again, a lot of the vibes I'm getting here is we want the old school ones, which fair. Doesn't work for 5th edition. It's a different setup, but I agree. I like it. And it brings out, I'm going to use my Saturday group, because they have gone no whenever I've introduced them to areas where there may be a white or a wraith or anything of the form. And they've gone, no, I like my levels. Thank you very much. I don't want to go through grinding and dealing with all this other bullshit, Oscar. I'm going to go around. As a matter of fact, I'm going to find a paladin. I'm just going to point them in that direction, and they can deal with it.
Which, of course, is a sensible thing to do, because paladins should be sacrificial lambs for that sort of thing. But so level drain. The player hates it generally, but I think it has the desired effect of making those players genuinely fearful, and I think that you should have the players on edge. That when you're on edge, we were talking about this early on. When you're on edge, when there is genuine risk, that's when games become memorable. When you're just wading through things easily, the game is like a cheap toffee. Oh, that was pleasant for 10 seconds, 20 seconds. But a few minutes down the line, you've forgotten about it. It's all short term. You remember those difficult moments, those times you were up against it. You remember your clever ways of beating the odds. You don't remember the easy moments that you wade through.
I mean, it depends on how you, the DM, do it as well. With 5th edition, I've done it in ways where players have been afraid of level drains because I set out in my Curse of Strahd, short rests are 8 hours, long rests are when you are in safety. And if you're not in safety, you're not going to be getting your levels back. So the players were like, well, I don't want to lose my level because it's scary out here in Barovia. So if you want to make it scary, you got to put in some, again, older editions. They've all got it baked into the system. Happy days. Newer editions, you got to be willing to just take the gloves off and let the players suffer. Just
one tweak I like. I tried this when I mean, as I've said many times, I don't run 5th edition anymore. But when I was running 5th edition with that hit point drain, I didn't use level drain, I used hit point drain. I used I added my own mechanic there, and that the undead that drained the hit points from a character would often seek to get away and digest, and the character could not recover those lost hit points unless that undead was slain, as it contained some of that character's essence.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that will drive the characters to do things rash, which I don't mind. I don't mind at all. But as Sean says here, thing about undead and level drains, love seeing the players learn and have their characters do smarter things next time. That is the point. That is the point. You want your players to play smart. You want your players to get into it. You want them. You got to think. You're playing adventurers in a dangerous world. They should be being careful. They should be fearful of their lives. And you want the players to understand that. And you want the players to play the adventurers in that manner. Most of the time, anyway.
Well, one way of doing that, in addition, is with experienced players. Depending how good they are as a role player versus a metagamer, they know what's in the monster manual. They've met these things before with different characters, maybe. And you tweak the monsters. As you just mentioned in
chat.
Yeah.
That's been mentioned in chat. And that is something I've got on my list here of things that players hate are tweaked monsters.
Yeah.
And
they get quite upset as well with it. It's funny.
Yep. Yeah. But
it doesn't say that on page 97. Oh, you can't do that, really?
Tough shit. It also says in the Dungeon Master's Guide that the Dungeon Master is in charge of their world.
Anyway, so are we done with the level drain?
I think so. Okay. Let's go to charm effects now.
Ooh, robbers.
Charm.
Yeah, robbers.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of dryads.
Robbers can also charm you to come over towards the cliff, try and give it a jump, and bye. Well, yeah, dryads. They can also take you away for some fun time, and you come back in what is like 1d4 plus 1 years. Yeah. You don't need that character. Give me that.
Players tend to hate anything that stops them being in full control of their character, doing what they want their character to do. And I think it's only the more mature players that will lean into this as a role-playing opportunity. We were talking about Andy's character's insanity in Call of Cthulhu earlier. How you're leaning into it as a role-playing opportunity. You know that you're now not playing Harold how you'd probably envisaged Harold 6 months ago, but you're having fun doing different things with Harold, and
and he's going down a certain path at the moment, probably. So yeah,
absolutely. Ironcaster, correct. Those monster stats are more like suggestions. Absolutely. Yeah, baby. Tweak the monsters. Correct. So, yeah, charming. And some creatures have the ability to charm. I mean, so some charm effects are quite minor in that you'll just perceive that monster as a friend, or you'll just perceive whoever's cast the charm as a friend. But there are domination level charms where you can turn a character on all their friends. And
domination is an entirely different thing, because that's where you, the DM, take over. I mean, I've used it with an aboleth against one of my players, and I've gone, okay, I don't have the time to deal with an aboleth, to deal with 5 different NPCs, a battle, and all this. So I've gone, all of you two. You shouldn't
have to take over. You shouldn't have to take over their
No,
sections. The player should lean into it. And
I told them, here's what you're being told. Traitors are around you. You're going to go and kill them. So I had one round where someone said, "Oh, you can't do this." Blah blah blah. Not as in like they were calling out, like role playing, that they didn't do anything. I went, "Okay, no, hold on. I know you, Eduardo. I know what you've been doing these last couple of months. I know your character to the point of where you don't think you lightning bolt. So you don't do this, and I'm not going to be having the second conversation with you, because you know that I know that this is not how your character is. This is how you've been playing it. So what? So are you pulling out your lightning bolt and attacking players?" It's like, yes, I am. Good, and I'd like to see that every round, because I know how your character is. And turning around to the other player, and you are a dangerous little dwarf. Go kill. And that's what you're going to be doing now, because I don't want to micromanage your characters, but you've got to play them like you're now fighting your other friends. Tough. It's how it is.
It is how it is. Yes.
If the players can turn monsters to kill each other, or as I've seen it on another stream where a cleric used dominate and had a stone giant, a stone giant kobold turn around and fight each other to the death. That's pretty brutal. I mean, hell, you can get dominate to have someone just off themselves, and they'll think it was the greatest idea ever. So if it goes one way, it sure as hell goes the other way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think Dirty History and Hobby has a point here. I mean, it is taking us slightly off sort of tangent a little bit, but I think, I think this is 100% right. I think it depends on the player's entry to the hobby, but if they've come in through especially one of them MMORPGs, where they are constantly building their character and the focus is on them building their character, then they're going to bring those feelings into the role-playing game. But I think those of us who started out where in a different way of playing, I think we've got it's down to different
it's what happens in the adventure, in the game, in the storytelling that leads you in the direction that informs you how your character develops. Not, I'm going to be this after so and so.
I'm going to have to step in. I think we're getting off topic.
George Egorog has a request for you, Saxius.
I've already answered. I don't stream. I don't stream at the moment. All my games I've made, they were made to be private, and it's only recently I've started my channel. Yeah. I am currently focusing on my style of DMing, how to use Excel and how to have fun with numbers. That's the current style. I'm hoping that later on, once your Fridays are freed up, John, if you're still up for Heroic, I'd like to take you through that, and then things can be streamed there.
I want to play in a Saxius game that is streamed that isn't Heroic, because that's my game and it feels weird playing in my game. But I would love to play. I'd even play D&D if Saxius ran it. That's for sure. On stream, live.
Yeah, you would love Red Hand of Doom, and I would love to run you through Red Hand of Doom. It would honestly be my honor to take you through that. I would love that. So let's see how things go, and then
in between the beans attack.
Yes. Either way,
something to plan for the new year.
Yeah, well, I promised you that I'd take you through Shell of the Demon Lord, and I did that. So much to my displeasure. But going back to charm. Charm is a wonderful thing because it's worded in a way where it's down to the interpretations of the characters. And this is where my brain kicks in because I pay attention to the details of the players, how they behave, and how they interact with each other. Ergo, if I were to cast a charm person on one of the players and be like, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. It's like, no. Hold on. Your character was willing to murder a character, another NPC, like 5 sessions ago because they wronged your friend. And now this person is your friend.
Gotta go, guys. Take care.
Take care.
See you there.
And now this one is doing that, and you're now having to fight your other friends. What kind of conflict is going on here? I want to see something that's a little bit more real, like you throwing yourself in the way to protect your friends. Because I'm going to be holding you up to your own standards. And if you're going to be playing a complete and utter sociopath that will throw your other friends in for the wolves, well, I hope that you're happy to also see your other fellow players do that to you. Because then you're kind of not really made to be playing a team game. But that also then means that, it's a two-way thing. If you were to do that for, a group of allies where they're like, oh, no, one of us has turned against, we can't attack him. But while he doesn't want to fight back, he's definitely defending the people we need to put out of the misery, which is why you geek the mage. You kill the spellcaster first, because the moment you identify you've got mind-altering spells like that, you remove them from the battlefield, ideally as quickly as possible. But it is a dirty spell. And we can go into details of why players don't like it. Sure. I mean,
okay, Iman's dropping off now, so cheers, okay. Iman. Thanks for popping by. Hope you feel better in the morning.
Yeah.
See you, mate.
But yeah, players don't like it because they're like, oh, but I don't want to do this. It's like, well, unless we are all now agreeing that charm person is not in our world, you're gonna have to, because I'm not gonna let you do it one way and then you get another way. That's not fair. That's not fun. So buckle up and get ready to do some things and be ready to say, I couldn't help myself, guys. I was charmed.
Yeah.
A legitimate excuse.
Mature players they know what's involved. You shouldn't hold any grudges against what a player does when they're charmed, because if you're a role player, you should lean into the role and make your actions feel correct for your character. Now, I'm the first to say, I did one of my first ever videos I did was it's what my character would do. If your character would be an arsehole and you use the it's what my character would do excuse in order to be an arsehole, then you, the player, are the arsehole. Charm effects, mind-altering effects, insanity effects are different, because you didn't create your character to be an arsehole, but effects in the game have caused it to happen. But now's your time to legitimately be that arsehole, and the other players should actually respect you for role-playing it properly. That's my opinion. So there we go.
Sorry, I've just been adding some of Anne's artwork to my write-up for Cthulhu. So,
Universe Galaxy, people who I know from the Discord can dive in. I have a Discord. Everybody on the panel are people I've chatted to quite a lot. So join the Discord, get to know us. Then you can chime in and join the streams. That's the way it works. So there you go. So I put the link in the Discord. So Charm is one of those. I think charm effects are a test of a player's maturity and a player's ability to role play. And I think good players should lean into it and should enjoy that challenge.
Definitely. So that's why something like a vampire, when they show up, the moment you make eye contact, bam, that's a save versus spell for charm at a -2, if I remember correctly. Because they're powerful.
When I ran Ravenloft, I ran it as a one-shot, and it was for an experienced gaming group. There were 5 or 6 of them. I can't remember, it was 5 or 6. 5. And they were all pre-generated characters. We had a monk, a magic user, cleric, a bard, fighter, thief, bard, old school one, another magic user. I think we have a paladin as well, actually. It must have been 6. And they're all around the right sort of level. And very early on, the monk got separated from the party. And if you know Ravenloft, you know that Strahd knows his domain. Well, he knows what's going on in that castle. When is Strahd going to turn up? At the worst time for the players.
Mm-hmm.
So that monk, I took that player to one side and said, "You open your." I said, well, "Okay, what do you do?" He said, "I'm going to light a torch, see what's around me. I've been separated." I said, "You stare into the eyes of a tall, gaunt man dressed in black. He greets you, and you have seen this image before. This is the master of the house. Make a saving throw as his spells, please." He fails. So I then said to the player, "Okay, you've been charmed. You are alone with Strahd. Let's just say your character isn't getting away from this. I have a plan about what Strahd is going to do. But what I would like you to do now is play Strahd. And what I would Strahd has a polymorph spell. I gave him the stats. He has a polymorph spell. Polymorph into the monk and return to the party at a time of your choosing. And then choose the moment to betray them." So that's what we did. And an hour later, the monk rejoined the party. Strahd joined the party. There wasn't a paladin. There couldn't have been. It was a cavalier. I had a cavalier, not a paladin. It was important because paladin could have detected evil. I didn't want that.
Oh, not in Ravenloft necessarily, though.
No, but it was. I had a cavalier. So, and he did, and he followed along, and they went down into the crypts. They all went all the way through. Went down into the crypts of Ravenloft. You know where all the whites are and everything. All hell broke loose down there. And because they were opening crypts, and I said, they open this one crypt, and I described the body of a gaunt man. Pale white skin, red lips, little fangs. Straight away, the players got a stake, rammed it into this body that was in the crypt. It was an illusion. The illusion broke. The monk sat up, looked his friends in the eyes, blood dripping from his mouth, and went, "Why?" as he died. And at that moment, the player launched his attack. Immediately charmed one of the magic users. So we had one of the party magic users using a wand of fire against the rest of the party. Another player playing as Strahd, fighting against the remaining party members. There were whites involved, and it all went to shit. And it was marvelous. It was absolutely marvelous.
And they enjoyed it.
They enjoyed it. It was a one shot. But they thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great way to end that module. The only surviving character, the cleric, ran and got fried by the dragon gargoyle statues as she tried to leave the castle because she had about 5 hit points left. And that's how it ended. That's where it ended, which was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So yes, if you have the right group who you know will lean into this, then these sort of effects where you take over, they have to play something different against the party, but in a clever way, can be very interesting. The problem comes when you have players who are trolls and torment each other, and that's where player versus player gets a bad rep. Because when done right, it can feel very organic, but it has to be very sparing, and it has to be done at the right moments. Cheers, Halakar.
It's the old elf and dwarf rivalry in Lord of the Rings, isn't it? It's
Yes.
that they will work together, but they will also snipe at each other in the off moments.
All right, so what topic are we on to next?
Okay, so I've got creatures with save or die capabilities.
Okay.
We mentioned the Bodak, for example. There's the no save. Aren't there some creatures with no saves? Does the Catoblepas have a save to its gaze? I can't remember.
No, not sure. Most of the creatures that have some sort of gaze attack, there is a save, isn't there?
And usually it'll be like save or die, save versus
Yeah.
spell, that form of thing.
Let me just check. I can't remember whether the Catoblepas allows a save or not. Just looking that up.
I just know that my Saturday group have, the moment that they learned that there was an entire forest that allegedly has basilisks in them, they just circled the map and went no. They have never gone anywhere near it. Every hook or story that leads them towards that forest, they stop dead in their track and go, not our problem anymore. We are not going in there. Doesn't matter what kind of loot, what kind of promises, we're not going in there. Even when I had what I refer to as a dark ranger that showed up there, I had one of the players just outright expose the creature by just saying, that's not a ranger. That's a Medusa in disguise who has basilisks as her pets, or as their pets. I was just like, damn, they know me.
I just looked up the Catoblepas. Yes, it is circumstantial. It depends on how you encounter it.
Okay.
Save or die is fine. But there needs to be, at the very least, telling signs. Because creatures like that have an enormous impact to the ecosystem surrounding them.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah, the lifelike statues that you come across, things like that. Yeah.
Oh, they're beautifully sculpted, but oh my, they're quite. It's the same with like, my 5th edition group came across the lair of a cockatrice. Now the cockatrice was out hunting for food, but there'd been a warrior previously that tried to get up there, and 5th edition is just you're petrified for 24 hours. Now the players stood there and went, well, it's either going to be a cockatrice or it's going to be a gorgon. If it's a gorgon, we're dead. If it's a cockatrice, we don't want to risk it. So both situations, we're leaving. No basilisk or anything like that. But they turned around and said, like, we don't want to deal with any of this. So we left. And they don't know what happened to that poor man. They've never come back. But yes, as Straw Piglet says in agreement, there needs to be a form of warning for it. Because you can't just plop a creature down like that and be like, oh yeah, there are deers, there's birds, there's all these animals around there. And, oh, would you look at that? There's just a happy little basilisk looking at you with puppy eyes. It's like, no. See, that's where I would stand up and accost a DM, because that's where I think they haven't considered what the impact
environment.
is. They there is an impact. And I'm perfectly fine with, save or die. It sucks, but it is a part of the game.
We're back to the point, though, of the of the party being cautious as well. The players need to. A DM should give these clues. The players need to listen and not be nonchalant about it. So it comes to good playing and good DMing, and good preparation from the players. I don't think a good group of players. So I mean, at low level you can play a little bit dumb, but once your characters get to a certain sort of level, a certain level of competence is expected, and that includes player competence. And player competence should involve preparation, should involve planning, it should involve information finding, it should involve basically trying to work out what they're going to be up against and trying to prepare themselves in the best way possible. If you've got an idea that you are going up against basilisks, get mirrors.
Get blind fighting as a proficiency.
Yeah.
Yes. Befriend an illusionist, an NPC illusionist who can cast gaze reflection. That sort of thing. These
Get
are options.
Sunglasses. Mirror reflecting sunglasses.
They won't exist in a medieval game world.
Leave it for a Tinker Gnome. They'll make it work.
Tinker Gnomes don't exist in my game world.
Well, that sounds like Kenders in my game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you allow Kenders, but not Tinker Gnomes.
I don't play in Dragonlance, so no, I don't allow Kenders.
No, it seems like I can't play with you.
I don't. To be honest, I don't mind Kryn as a world. I think it's got a lot.
No, that's not the point. That's not the point.
Yeah,
no, John.
yeah.
Before I can see you're getting ready to waffle on. No.
Yeah.
Let's get back onto it. Okay, what about Death Knights? And they point at you and go, die. I like that. I love the fact that the players have gone, oh, this cult is looking to resurrect a Death Knight. Huh? Would you look at that? We're going to put an end to these guys. And if they get anywhere near that crypt, we're going to be on the other side of that continent. Because we don't want to deal with that.
The thing you need there is silence 15-foot radius so it can't utter any verbal components.
Yeah.
And a well-planned party will have a cleric. If you know you're going up against a Death Knight, a cleric should have an idea of what they can do.
Yeah, but
it's all about research.
My question is moving towards, okay, we're moving into spells that has got the save versus die. Disintegration. That's a favorite amongst the beholders. So it's petrifications.
Isn't there a saving throw against disintegration, though?
Oh, so, well, either way, you die if you fail.
Yeah.
There's very few monsters I can think of where if you encounter them, you die immediately. I mean, the main one really is like green oozes or green slime, but even then, I think there is a potential save.
There's time to burn it out of someone or whatever, but
rod grubs again. That's fine. Yeah, but
infecting with slards, that's good.
Oh yeah, I do like slards, though I haven't gotten to use them a lot. But I did get to use rod grubs, and I got my players to cast enlarge upon a person, get them to get out there, their daggers, the flames, and start doing open surgery. See, I like that. I like that thinking. You change a man after they have to undergo things like that in the dungeon. Did they learn not to touch the dead bodies? Yes, they did.
Especially the ones that smell, because I hope you describe because rock grubs have a really bad odor. So I hope you describe that smell.
Listen, when you're in an area filled with dead things, you're not going to be able to tell the difference.
Oh, fair enough.
If you're going to be in an area and you open it up, it's like it's a crypt, it's a dead person. There's a bunch of things rotting around there. I don't need to go into details with how bad it smells. It's a dead corpse.
They should know.
At that point, your brain needs to switch on.
Yes. I mean, gaze reflection is, I think, it's one of the most useful low-level illusionist spells because it's not just basilisks. As I say, there are quite a lot of creatures that like to look at you. And I mean, look at the vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Vampires.
Medusa.
Yeah. Medusas.
So, question for the panel here.
Mhm.
Some of these creatures with their gaze attacks, can they turn it on and off?
I think so. Maybe. Yes,
let's take a
because
basilisk.
otherwise,
If
the
a basilisk,
has to be able to. How do they mate? I mean,
aren't they just immune to it amongst each other?
well, but then you've got the whole. What about the mirror? In which case, they'd be immune to the reflection of the mirror of their own gaze. No, I think it's something they can turn on and off, the same way a Medusa does.
Right.
I mean, you could do it the other way, Medusa in particular, because that's not a creature in principle from its origins that is going to breed.
See, I'm in agreement with Dirty History and Hobbies, because I would be a-okay if you used the mirror. Yeah, it bounces back at them. They just get a save against their own attack. I mean, where does it say? So I can't remember off the top of my head, but does it specifically say that they just immediately turn to stone, or that there is a percentage? Because either way, it still sounds to me like they get a save one way or the other.
Like I mean, turn to stone effects have always got a saving throw, I believe.
Yeah, but if you then, let's go through the mechanics of this. So you fight against a basilisk, and you go like, okay, I am going to fight, but I'm not going to look at it. Okay, well, you've now got a 20% chance of being looked at. That's by the rules. That's that, unless you blind yourself, in which case you now take the permanent -4 AC, -4 to attacks, and you don't want to do that against a basilisk. So you then have to make use of don't look at them, use the mirror. Well, they look into the mirror, there's a certain percentage, there's a chance for that. Then they get the effect back at them. Then they have their own attack bouncing back at them. They get a save versus that. That makes sense to me. The very same. You've got two mates. They'll then be able to engage with one another, whether they turn it on or turn it off and on, or how they get around that. It just opens up some interesting discussions. Why? Because I know players will go, how can I have basilisk pets?
Oh yeah.
How can I acquire this thing? Not because I needed to walk with me. No, I just need a guard dog down in my treasure layer. So that when we open it up, it's not a stairway down there. No, it's a hatch, and we just throw money down there along with some food for the basilisk. So when the other rogues eventually comes in and they want to steal from us, there's just this happy little basilisk going, "Ooh, food! I am been trained so that every time that hatch opens up, there is food." See, now you're thinking like me.
So that's when you start giving it live food. It's like having a pet snake. Having a pet snake where you get the dead mouse and you've got to wiggle it so the snake thinks it's alive and has it.
Exactly. Wiggle the rogue as you drop him down the hole. Yeah.
Little hobbit.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and then of course we've got the Medusas and what are they called, the Medes, the male versions. I mean, it's a hilarious combination, especially when the male versions of the Medusa, they're able to just run through stones. Come in, bam, give you a hit, run through the stone. You can't keep up with them.
I don't tend to think too much about the mating capability of monsters in D&D, unless they are something that's described as living in lair type situations, like your small humanoids. You'll get males and females and young.
I told you I've worked out how harpies reproduce, didn't I?
I think so.
Yes. You can go over it again.
They basically charm sailors, take the sailors off, have their wicked way, and then eat them.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a siren or any of the other creatures that are like that, where it's like, come to me. And I was like, okay, well, we know what's happening here.
Yeah.
Either way, so that is save versus death.
So a young sailor goes onto an island of harpies where he lost his father, avenging his father, and meets a young harpy who
That
looks
that
just
would
like
get
him.
interesting. Yes, freshly hatched sort of thing. Yeah.
Freshly hatched young harpy. Yeah. It's got your chin. It's got your eyes. Oh, you could really play that against the players.
Oh,
you
most,
could play that.
most of my players would look at that and go, "Nah, don't care.
yeah.
Don't know the creature. Don't care. Don't care about this,
Yeah.
Oscar."
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh.
Mm.
Bastards
All
come
right.
from fertilized eggs. That could be a way of doing it. Yeah, the female could lay the eggs, and then the male could go along and
Hey,
fertilize them.
yes.
Yeah,
You
there
can
we
look
go.
into
There we
that.
go.
Either way, it's fine. People come in there, they want the eggs, and they're not going to have a good time. Simple.
I mean,
That's
yeah. I mean,
before we go into.
I'm not interested in male and female bastards loves each other very much. That sort of thing.
No, but like my point is, like, either way, then we go into like greater basilisk, and then they stink, and then you could have save versus poison. Just dealing with them being that close, or die, because it's not enough to have one save. You need two saves.
We've had a few toilet trips. I now need a toilet trip. So
Sure.
I'm going to trust you two to behave yourselves while I disappear off to the toilet.
Wrong choice. Go on, Andy.
Well, with my 5e crowd, they're in the situation to say they're not getting a rest. They're going to get surrounded by enemies very shortly because they're going to think, "Oh, we can just hold up here. That will be fine."
Yeah.
I'm actually, and this is within the scenario, I'm leaning towards. They've already pissed off a goddess, and she's now coming to seek revenge. And there may be a Tarask on the horizon, as well as the goddess. And there will be a way to deal with that, but they're going to have to get away and then cast a certain spell that they'll find on a scroll. And it's going to get very nasty. Very, very nasty.
Nice. I approve.
But they've been.
Anyway.
I mean, this is what I found with 5th edition, and this game I've been running for nigh on 10 years, which is quite scary. We're on season 12. We only do like 2 or maybe 4 months in a year when we play once a week. But from this was running as 5th edition from the day one, starting as first level characters.
Yeah.
But they did tend to go through everything like a dose of salts, which was quite scary in that, even for low level characters.
Yeah.
And they just take everything out. So it's just got to the point where, okay, they really need a challenge. They need to, what they're doing, they're in the dungeon, as it were, even if it's ice caves, and they're not getting a rest. They're not getting a proper rest, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to not like it.
No.
I think they're finding it entertaining, but they're not liking it at the same time.
No, but like I don't have a problem with 5th edition. I can turn up the difficulty. It's not hard. You just need to be creative and to go about it. I mean, hell, like all the stories about necrotic, damage being done to the undead, that's just from my 5th edition group. I'm just doing that because why? They haven't paid attention to it. Yeah.
I am a great fan of them letting them do it to themselves, which I thought was perfect last time, where I'm looking for a chew toy and I'm chewing this exhibit where it says explicitly, "Do not touch the exhibit." Thank you. Just step into my parlor and I'll do this to you.
Yeah.
Come into my parlor, said the spider to the fly.
Exactly.
What?
It's a lyric from The Cure's Lullaby.
Is this an English lullaby?
It comes from elsewhere as well, but yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Okay. I don't know.
But no, the song lyric I was quoting there. Right. So, players tend to dislike. I'm going to give it a little anecdote now. Players tend to dislike anything that takes away their choice, their freedom, their ability to do what their character has been designed to do.
Well, the dirty word of agency.
The dirty word of agency, yes. We recently had a bit of a situation in one of our games. And we had a chat about this afterwards. and there's only one player in the group who would have kicked up a hissy fit about it. It just happened to happen to him, and he did kick up a hissy fit about it. And he openly said that he hates any monster effects that keep his character out of combat for even a round. Doesn't want them in the game. And to be honest, I mean, that player isn't part of our group anymore. But in that situation, the DM did make a mistake. We went into the cellar of a building, and there was a secret room at the back of the cellar, and there was a ritual going on. And this player was playing a thief, and the thief had crept down there, and we'd said, okay, we'll wait up the stairs. You're really good at hiding. You're really quiet. And the character, I believe, I seem to remember it was an elf, so had some ability to see in darkness. Mm-hmm. Went creeping down there, opened a door, saw the ritual happening. Now, we'd said to the player, just go out and scout and come back and we'll work out what's going on. That player then decided to take a pot shot at the cultists, and then because it was 5th edition, they could take a bonus action to hide. The DM ruled that the domination spell that one of the cultists had did not require line of sight. It was a special power. Now, that was a bit of a silly. That was a little bit wrong. We had a chat with him about that afterwards. Said that was a bit too much. But the player had a real hissy fit about his character being dominated. Didn't like it. Didn't want to. Felt like it was no longer in control. And it's like, well, you did something stupid. You did something stupid. You should have just scouted out, come back and told us, and we'll all go down there and take them on. Or we can formulate a plan. And he was like, but it says on my character sheet that I can do this, and this, and then do this. And he shouldn't have been able to do that because the character couldn't see me. And that's taking away my player character's abilities. The character's abilities. The DM was in the wrong. I think the player was more in the wrong, because it's just, to me, it's an alien style of play. It's an alien style of play, not having players be punished for rash actions.
There are always consequences.
Consequences, yes. Was unwilling to accept the consequence, even if those consequences were a little bit disproportionate, because that character ended up dying. That character died in the combat.
Okay.
So it was a bit of a perfect storm in that it happened to the wrong player with the wrong type of character, and the DM was a bit of a newbie at the time, and it was all a bit of a bit. It was all very stupid. The rest of us just stood there going.
But there's also the element there, and it comes back to as you say, it's the player whinging. But
yeah,
the player does not know what's really going on. They can make all the assumptions they want, but they could be wrong.
Yes.
I've got one of the characters at the moment thinks that his silver rapier is doing extra damage to vampires. I haven't broken it to him that it's not doing bugger all to them. You know.
Yeah, they're allowed to be wrong. But his silver rapier, I mean, yeah, it might get him killed as he goes in a fight with a vampire. It doesn't do anything extra. Have you given him any clues to say it is doing extra damage, or does he just somehow think it?
He's assumed.
He's assumed.
No. I mean, it might allow him to fight a werewolf, and it might allow him to circumvent certain, was like immunities. Like it might be allowing him to, actually do damage to a vampire by a little bit, but that's no more than that.
Yeah, he thinks it's doing extra. He thought it was. They've got rid of the vampire now, but
Going back to the whole situation here, the DM needs to build trust first and foremost. the players have to trust the DM to be running a game that's going to be fun for everyone involved, including the DM.
Yes.
And in turn, the DM can then trust the players to have characters that can, engage into the game. When you have a new DM, as a player, you come in with kid gloves, especially if you're a veteran. The moment they go, I'm a new DM, it's like, okay, I'm going to be on my best behavior. I'm going to ask the DM if I can help with anything, take anything off his plate. My second edition group, they know that I'm a veteran DM. I still have one of them going like, listen, give me things so that you don't have to deal with it, because then you've got more time to focus on other things, and it's lovely. And there are going to be times where DM's going to make a wrong call. You don't stop the game for that. You can go at the end of the session, go like, listen, let's have a chat about this. I don't understand it. Yada yada yada. But that's if a player feels that the agency is so important that it cannot be taken away from them, then maybe they're not playing the right game.
Yes, I agree. I do agree.
So there are very few games where your player agency cannot be taken away, and I don't play most of them. I think maybe things like Dungeon World would be a lot more for them, where you've got a lot more narrative and interactiveness to deal with. But I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to state what I'm observing and hearing. Beyond that, the DM does have the ability to do things that the players will not enjoy, like giving abilities, class levels, and other dirty tricks to monsters.
I do that.
Yeah. I've given an aboleth several levels in wizardry. Why? It was an ancient aboleth.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, why shouldn't he be able to do that? I like the fact that aboleths are these ancient deities of the water plane so much that I'm now porting that backwards into second edition. Because that is awesome. The fact that you kill an aboleth is not killing it. It's just returning to the deep, dark depths of the water plane. It's just a visitor. As much as it's an aberration, it's just a visitor from another plane. Yeah, but it's not like an aberration like a Grell or a Mind Flayer. It's from the water plane. I quite like that.
It's like a summoned creature, basically. That's
exactly. And like, as a History and Hobby says, even an aboleth needs hobbies.
This is something I flagged up a while back. Why do players always seem to hate when they encounter monsters that deviate from their as-published abilities, powers, skills, etc.? When do they start expecting me to be bound by published stats?
Well, you've got the players who sat down and memorized all the monsters.
Yeah,
good for them. These players would make fantastic DMs because they can just run things without needing to open the book, and they'll just be like, go, 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 go. Anyway, if you can take the banner down, just so we can see Andy's beautiful face.
I'm not sure I want to.
Anyway, but yes, it's. I understand that the need for these are things, they should be static, so on. But at the very same time, within the same rules, you've got the whole thing of a goblin shaman, a goblin chieftain. There are things where it already opens up the doors so that these are not going to be normal. Your rank and file goblin, sure. I don't mind the fact you're going to be going through them with the heroic feat of one hit, one kill, and just move on. That's fine. But for the players,
I learned when I very first started playing many, many years ago, and the first game I properly played in after rolling up a character who died really quickly, the friend was showing me, and my half-orc fighter with huge strength and whatever was part of this party, and we were wandering into somewhere, and there was a red dragon. And he's first level character, so he's like just dealing with what other minions are. But I believe, I can't remember exactly, but I think an ancient red dragon in first edition D&D, AD&D, was something like 80 hit points, 88 hit points.
88, huge ancient, yeah. 88,
yeah. This one had 180. So that was the learning curve of, they're not quite what they say they are. Fair enough. And that was the very first encounter with something, a big bad.
Well, I mean, as one person put it, the bestiary is a collection of suggestions.
Yeah,
ideas.
absolutely.
Yes, it's ideas. Yeah. Yeah.
So
use them as a template and build from them.
If you want to do a not Tiamat that has 3 heads, one of which is white, one of which is gold, and one of which is blue, have fun with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just don't make it a bag of hit points. That's all. Just make it interesting.
Well, white, gold, and blue put together. There's some interesting things you could do with that for the elemental powers a creature like that could have. Like, you remember the Taiyukin from Dragon Ball? Just have it do that to your party, just like this
I don't know.
It's this big blinding blast of light. The whole point of it is that your enemies can't see properly for a few minutes. That's all.
Yeah. Again, it's a sort of effect. It's these negative effects that monsters are supposed to have that players seem to push back against. They hate.
But a purely physical fighter getting blinded like that would be like, oh wait, I try to swing at the dragon, but oh, you missed and hit the rock wall instead.
No,
because you can't see the dragon.
No, at the very least you'll have the -4 penalty.
Yeah,
if you're high enough level, then you have a chance, but it's not going to be a very good chance.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Have we even touched on the rust monster's ability?
I was thinking about that one. I've had that come up in a game where a guy. This actually, I don't think this was actually a rust monster. It was an acetic slime variant, but hitting it with a metal sword you would have to do a Constitution roll for the sword.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, plenty of games, plenty of oozes and slimes in AD&D, for example. If you attack a green slime with your weapon, say goodbye to your weapon. Grey oozes will damage weapons. If you hit a rust monster, your magic sword has a 10% chance of still being okay. It's like, yeah.
In some games, the equivalent of rust monsters also have the possibility of just like when it attacks you, it bites your sword or something like that.
Yeah. I would have the rust monster go for the armor, personally.
I mean, armor, shield. There's several options.
Yeah. But no, the rust monster's there. It's in there as a screw you to fighters.
Oh no, disenchanters are there to say screw you.
Disenchanters are there as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dirty History and Hobbies. That is like them.
That is actually one of those things I've noticed though, is that you in a game where rust monsters are common, you'll have someone carrying around a wood club just in case they run into one.
Well, that's where your party's magic user with their staff should just block the doorway and just go poke. That's just because and say you shall not pass, Mr. Rust Monster. You shall not pass.
I mean, but like a warrior bonking it with a quarterstaff would also work.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. And isn't it? I know players could go over the top with walking arsenals, but isn't it a sign of good planning that a fighter carries a spare weapon?
Yeah.
All right. No, let me counter this to you. Coming from 3.5, a fighter should have a pole arm so that he gets the reach attack. Mm-hmm. Then he will drop it as a free action, pull out whichever weapon he's favored with. If he's fighting against a creature like a skeleton, he has to pull out a bludgeoning weapon. Or if he's then able to pull out an axe or a sword instead, then he will pull out that. He needs to have a two-handed sword and a back for when he has to do major damage, and a shield to increase his AC. Now that's just a quick breakdown, but I can keep on using my other hand. So that does become like the drawing from, I think it's either Pathfinder or 5th edition, where you just see a warrior that has got every inch of his body is covered in weapons.
Oh, there was also the thing in one of the living things where they're going around with a golf cart with all their magic swords in and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That pisses me off.
I mean, I have actually seen people legitimately have hirelings solely to carry their gear.
And naturally,
okay.
that's what they're there for. Mind you, I do like not hirelings. I do like followers. Well, that's mainly because I've seen how some of my players will just be like, "Oh, I've got a follower. Great, let's take them adventuring," and they do not last very long. And I don't give them out all at once. I dribble them in.
But I mean, like in some cases, it's like that whole thing where the stereotypical scene at a golf course where someone's like, "Hey, give me the 9-iron,"
Yeah.
but you're doing that with your follower in the sack of weapons.
But yeah, I mean, some of it would make sense, as P-Dub points out. Squires make sense.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
if it's something like I don't know, the apprentice to a wizard, I mean, at that point it becomes wizards tend to have an ego, and if you've gone through, I don't know, like 8 years of studying to become a wizard, your hireling is probably like, I've got some self-respect. I'm not going to take this, even if you are a master.
I think Peter makes a point here. Pay attention to the contents of the dungeon or the castle, wherever you are, and use those contents against your enemy.
Yep. That's
simple, good play.
Great.
And this is it's exactly what you should do. My group, I've just done that little short of the village of Homlet. It reminded me of the time when my old Friday group first ran through it. And there's a big glob of green slime at the bottom of the stairs. Yeah. They saw it, and they avoided it. They sort of sprinted past it with shields and whatever above them. And then all the zombies come out of the crypts and start marching towards them. But they didn't find the zombies straight away. They had a search around, and they found that secret little armory off to the side.
Yeah.
So they knew about the presence of the armory. All the zombies started coming. They ran back to the armory, picked out javelins and spears, dipped them in the green slime, and hurled them at the approaching zombies.
Oh, that's a nice move. Yeah.
It's a nice move, and they melted most of those zombies before they could get to them. And it was you don't need to do the damage if you're melting them with slime. Well done, players.
Just do it against the players.
Yeah.
Have the drow come up with well, I like to have unusual or very specialized weapons. Like one drow assassin had a dagger where they could insert liquids, which included green slime. Yeah. So it was basically made so that they could insert a green slime into it, stab someone, release that liquid or slime into an enemy to guarantee death.
Yeah, that's very nasty. I like that.
Yes,
that's evil. Evil.
Like, but it was made that character was made to be a player character killer with the explicit intention. I was okay once the players killed that assassin, and I was okay once they got that weapon themselves, because they're like, well, we can now use this. And it was like one of the players had gotten a hold of not a vial, but it's like a vial-like shape of stone, because like green slime, because they don't go through stone, that's how you obtain them.
Yeah.
So he's been keeping that with him. So it's like, okay, I now have a weapon where I can use this rather than having to spill it on someone. So he was now armed with that thing.
That's when he falls down a pit and you bring out the item saves.
That's all right. Listen, he knows what he knows what the deal is. So if he doesn't keep it in an extra dimensional pocket,
yeah.
Mind you, I do love extra dimensional pockets or anything of that nature, but that's me.
No,
go on.
Go on.
I was going to say, like, my players know this, and they know I've enforced that onto an NPC. So every time that this NPC gets knocked out, they have to strip him because they don't know which pocket he's casted on, and then they have to carry him into one of their like sub-dimensional places where they have to heal him. Because if they drag him in while he is clothed, everything collapses.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't pickpocket a wizard because you never know what you're going to find.
I've given them a backpack, which I assume you've watched Harry Potter, John.
I've watched bits of it.
Okay, There's a part in Harry Potter where there's a tent. You walk inside the tent, it's the size of a house. So they've got that in a backpack form where they can fold out, and they've got a little place where they can sleep. Problem is, you're not allowed to have two subdimensions inside of each other. That causes a collapse, and you end up in the astral plane. Meaning they have to strip the NPC every time he has to go in there, because they don't know which one of his pockets he turns into a extra dimensional thing. So they're like, nope, strip down, naked, get in.
Oh boy! So speaking of pickpocketing, though, it's like I've read some books that had some very, very creative ways of, screwing someone over, and one of them was, an object where you steal it, and if you touch it with your bare skin, it sticks to your skin, starts to get hot, and then after a few seconds explodes.
Very
This
nice.
is one of those weird sci-fi nonsense things where the guy who has this, he just handles it with gloves. He just doesn't touch it with his bare skin.
I like the idea of mages, one of their pouches being a modified bag of devouring.
Yes.
Just to stick your hand in that, and wait, no, you don't have a hand anymore.
That explosive was used. Roger Zelazny had it in Home is the Hangman, something similar to that.
All right, here's another thing that the players hate. You roll pickpocket against them.
Leprechauns.
Have you ever, and I've done this, I have done this unapologetically. I rolled pickpocket to take the wizard's book.
Ooh. Actually, that reminds me of something. An ability that players found so annoying in Diablo 2 that it got patched out of the game completely so that no enemy actually used it. Thieving. Why? Because when this enemy hit you, he would cause you to drop odd items.
Nice. Yeah, no, I've used pickpockets against players. Again, we've talked about it several times on the stream. Like, oh, you've got a lot of money. Well, the thieves are going to come for you. If you're a wizard, you're carrying around a book. Not a small book. It's going to be, a traveler's book. They're still thick.
It's a tome, yeah.
It is big.
Your backpack will have a big book-like shape in it.
And if we look at the value of paper, wizard paper, that's $5,000 for a traveler's book. 10 grand for a 100-page one. Now, remember these rules, because you can roll pickpocket and fail as long as you don't roll up towards us like the 100 or 95 minus the player's level, or like some calculation. Something of that. Which means your thief can keep on doing it.
Yes.
So I've done it. I've also had to play those characters fail, and then the wizard went, "Oh no, you did not. Oh no, you did not. I'm now going to cast levitate on you, and I'm going to walk with you using your angle like a balloon. I'm going to bring you to the sheriff's office because I am going to have you hung for that."
I mean, there is also that one thing I've seen it in a few settings where you it's a variation of levitate where it just flings the person into the air up till they're like 20 feet up in the air and then lets them fall.
Oh yeah, that's
like
anti-gravity
gravity and things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. But I mean, my players have used levitate as a way of just stopping someone from being able to run away. So because they control the levitation.
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good use for it.
Yeah, so they use that, and they now weigh nothing. They're like a balloon, so just take them by the ankles, and then off you go. What are you going to do? If they start like jumping on us, you can just let go and just move, and you force them to follow. It'll be slow, or you can throw a rope at them and just keep moving. I mean, they've done the same thing where it's like one of my players cast fireball in a small area. He had levitate on himself, but he effectively got knocked out because I had rulings of sonic blasts. So they just ran back, picked him up because he was still levitating, and ran with him like he was just unconscious and lightweight. Just underneath their arms, like, okay, we're getting out of here.
But yes, enemy spellcasters.
I refer back to my previous statement, Geek the Mage.
Yeah, players don't tend to like it when powers that they have are possessed by enemy NPCs used against them.
I've seen more vitriol from players when other NPC clerics comes in and tries to convert the players away from the group's cleric.
I mean,
I've seen a lot.
The single most memorable thing I've ever seen happen in a Hyperborea game was running into a boss monster that could cast chain lightning.
Yeah.
I mean, it straight up insta-killed two of the members of the party because someone was stupid about how he alerted the boss to our presence. And, he only gets to cast it once. Yeah, okay. He cast it once. Now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Something else players hate: stupidity from other players. This is slightly off topic, but I do remember running Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh for my group. Something I've done many times. And they're moving slowly towards the boat, taking care to stay out of the direct moonlight, keeping to the lee side of the boat, shrouded in darkness. And so the party's bard decides to stand up and sing a rousing song to prepare for the coming battle. The look on the other players' faces were like, what the hell are you doing? At which point, the enemy ship just lifted its anchor and left. That's what they do. That's what they do. Bye. We're off. And that's the end of the adventure. I'm sorry, you failed.
Just pick up. I mean, if it's got cannonballs, great. If not, just a heavy rock. Just go hello, whoop, and sing the little boat if they're by their side.
They were trying to smuggle. They were trying to smuggle by moonlight to just so they're going to just leave. Their cover's been blown.
I mean, as a counter example, I heard of stories about this one. Okay, this wasn't a game I was in, but it's something I heard about where the players get sidetracked because of the fact that they find out that people had been smuggling things into a port town. So two of the players, not the entire party, mind you, just two of them, decide they're going to find the ship that's doing the smuggling and board the ship so that they can track down where the smugglers are coming from. Which, of course, is like completely off topic because, or off script, I should say, is because the DM wanted them to hunt down the person who had been getting the smuggled goods delivered to them, not the person who was sending the smuggled goods.
Cheers, Dirty Yoga. Yeah, I mean that's but players will always often derail games in that way. The DM's just not prepared for it.
Players being stupid, that's their own fault. There is they can hate each other, but they've got to live with that, or they've got to educate each other. And it's also one of the reasons why I won't be a good player, because I sit and I go, right, I need to know your character, I need to know your character, I need to know your character, because I need to know what the hell you can do. So I can sit there and go no, you should be doing X, Y, and Z, because we need to play optimally. Why? Because fun is winning.
And then you have that moment where you find out that one of the other player characters is carrying around a 500-pound stone statue in his backpack. And then you have to ask, how on earth is a fish man able to walk with that in his backpack?
Well,
Keep
you're right, Straw. We are off topic, but then again, we've got 30 minutes.
I'm just wondering why chat are talking about washing things. Somebody said a version of Tiamat called Laundromat. I think it was.
I saw some stuff about a dragon whose powers involved cleaning things and covering the party with soapy bubbles to prevent them from or something like that.
I mean, they're not entirely wrong. I mean, you can do it with like chlorine from the green. You've then got what's it called, like water from like one of the other, or steam dragon. Like you can definitely do it. The logistics are there, but why do you want your players to come in there and then come out shiny and bedazzling? Either way,
well,
another thing
actually, that's an idea though. Is that one thing that I've seen in some fiction is the idea that you can wash things off that the players don't want to be washed off. Like the process of washing the player might, like deplete their magic points or prevent them from using certain of their powers temporarily.
Yeah. I mean, players already throw a hissy fit whenever I've thrown anti-magic areas at them. They go, no, don't like that.
I say again, it's anything that strips away their character's ability to do their thing all the time.
But you can do the same thing back. I mean, I'm going to go off on one here. My players have thrown a humongous wrench into my plans on my side of the group. Why? Because they have snuck their way into the encampment of the demonic lich. They have then been doing a couple of quick assassinations to get in there and do a quick lay of the land, and they find out, oh, would you look at that? There is a demonic commander who is in the middle of torturing and impaling Yuan-Ti onto several banners, using their suffering and their magical abilities to reinforce the demon and devils that they're going to be summoning in. Horrific stuff, straight out of Warhammer Fantasy with chaos. What does one of the players do? He looks at the other group and he says, I'm going to go and cause trouble. I've been waiting for this. And now is the time. So he began using his sneaking abilities, getting closer and closer to this demonic commander, just close enough so he could cast Polymorph Other. And he would then turn this tortured Yuan-Ti into an adult silver dragon, the biggest that I would allow him to feasibly have ever seen or ever be able to imagine. Which was okay. But now we then had the whole thing of a gigantic polymorphed silver dragon has appeared. And oh boy, that is...
Oh, and it wants to kill you just because it still thinks like the Yuan-Ti did.
Thankfully, it failed all of its saves because I'm the one rolling, so I don't roll very well. So it thinks it's a silver dragon. It's got all the capabilities, but it's just the weakest shit. Yeah. Which is fair enough. But they've got their backup plan, which is they have found bones of an actual silver dragon, and while they can't cast your summon out an actual adult silver dragon, they can get a youngling, and they want to cast haste on that thing as well as enlarge. I play with very fun groups. But that's what they want to do. But my point is, this is the bullshit that my players can do. Why can't I do something back? Why can't I cast Polymorph Others? Why can't I do Polymorph Other to one of the players and turn him into a frog and then stab said frog until it dies? Mm-hmm. Like, where is the line? Why can't I do that and you can do the other? It's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. So do silver dragons in your world love doing tax accounting?
Of course they do.
They're lawful,
what kind of silly question is this? Of course they do. And the gold ones are also there to ensure that you make sure all of the taxes has been retrieved properly.
So we've done rust monsters targeting the fighters. There are other creatures that take away people's stuff. We talked about the Kender last week, but they're player characters that take away people's stuff.
Oh yeah, like a whole thieving thing. Yeah.
What about leprechauns?
Never had those used in any of the things I was in.
In UK1, Beyond the Crystal Cave, when you appear in the garden, you appear in the middle of a fairy ring, seated on these large toadstools are leprechauns. And in the adventure, it says they will use their polymorph ability to turn things like swords into teddy bears. and things like that.
Oh,
Oh, that drives the players mad. Oh, one of my group absolutely loved that encounter. It was his favorite encounter in any adventure ever. He just loved it. He just laughed the whole way through it. The rest of them were like, but creatures have these sort of abilities. Mischievous creatures. Leprechauns aren't. They're not going to be nasty to you unless you're aggressive to them, but they're going to be mischievous. They're designed to troll players. They're designed to piss players off, but they're also designed to give the DM a chance to have some fun. You ever use leprechauns, Saxius, at all?
No, I never saw the appeal of leprechauns, so that's purely because I never bothered to really read into them much beyond that. Yeah, you got to bear in mind, large part of my gaming history was 3.5.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's like
you're a youngling.
Like,
yeah, you're a youngling. That's what it is. You're a youngling.
Yeah. Well, I had fun with my big numbers.
Yeah, that's a chat because Saxius is 20 odd years younger than the rest of us. So he came into the hobby at 3.5 and went backwards towards 2.
20 years younger, but twice as evil.
Yes. He went backwards towards 2E, and that's where he ended up living. You ended up living in 2E, didn't you? That's your D&D.
Yeah, but like that was my introduction to D&D when I was 9. So between 9 and 12, I played 2nd edition, but I couldn't read the books because I didn't speak or read English. So I just played it and just went like, okay, roll this number, add that number. Great, I got this number. Yeah, okay, great. I now roll damage.
Oh, well, what's your native language?
I'm Danish.
Ah, okay.
So
I was thinking you were from Europe somewhere. I just didn't remember which.
Yeah, no, Northern European. But yeah, so that's my quick introduction, and then I didn't understand that there were different editions, so I just picked up whichever version of D&D I found in the bookstore, which were 3.5 at the time, and we tried to run 2nd edition using 3.5. Again, we couldn't read it. My parents needed to use a dictionary when I asked them to read parts of it for me, and then later I got to read it properly, and we then ran 3.5.
Peter, I've not.
Thanks it wasn't. Thank God it wasn't the earlier editions where it's in High Gygaxian. I mean,
Oh, I think my parents would have given up. They would have, yeah.
Or they would have just told you to read it yourself and given you the.
The thing is, I couldn't read it. It had the same letters. It was just written in such a weird way. Your word "and" A-N-D means duck in Danish.
Yeah.
Do you know how that is so confusing when you read through? Bob, Doc, Leonard. It's like
this is one of those things where you like get a spiral bound notebook and write down what you think it means as you translate the thing.
Thank you, Doc.
I had other things to do either way.
Yeah.
See, the scares much design. Exchequer beak. Is this a?
Oh boy. That's basically an accountant who demands that you pay what you owe or something.
Taxes. Yes, you pay your taxes.
All right. Court of Exchequer. I've not had the pleasure of dealing with them just yet.
It would be the audit dragon. That would be the one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Exchequer beast isn't a dragon though; it's something else.
Yeah.
It's an animated abacus that walks around going, well, actually.
Fair enough. Mind you, I've mainly had to deal with HMRC. That's his own thing.
But thank you, Doc. Thank you for the $5. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Doc.
thank you very much, Doc Flamingo.
Yeah. Welcome to. I don't know. Did I say hello to Grim when she appeared a while back? I think Grim's been chatting away, but I haven't said hello to Grandpa Fishy, a new name in the chat.
Yes.
I guess he's talking about leprechauns. It's a 2nd edition campaign here. Had fun with leprechauns. Yeah, I've had fun. With
Mug Dwellers.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great shout.
Muck Dwellers are fun. Muck Dwellers are a good low-level monster to irritate the player characters with. Omanal's with us. Omanal came up with this topic, so I'm glad you're watching, Omanal. You are an hour behind, but you're catching up to do. You can join us for. I mean, I'd say you could join us for a chat, but we've only got 22 minutes left, and that would be your way of saying hello in 22 minutes.
His comment: the biggest monsters are ex-girlfriend and their mother.
Oh yes. And Peter, I haven't read Tall Tales of the Wee Folk. It came out for Me after I'd sort of discarded buying things, and I'd gone into AD&D, and I stopped playing around 1922. I think no, I'm not that old. 1992. I missed out on that one. So if it's got good lore in regarding leprechauns, things like that, I might give that a read, because I do like tricksy little folk.
Well, one thing that I personally love the idea of is having Tinkerbell like fairies in this setting, not as a major antagonist, but as just, tiny people who can annoy you if you aren't nice to them.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid the Fae, but that's because I have a hard time understanding their whimsical nature. Though I do like the whole thing of where when players meet the Fae and they go, "Oh, can I have your name?" And if the player doesn't know what the Fae is like, they'll go, "Yes, my name is blah." I was like, "Thank you," and then off they go. I was like, "Great, give me a character sheet, just cross out that name. There you go. You are not this person anymore. You do not know who you are anymore. Why? Because you've given your name to the Fae."
No, I haven't thought of that.
You've
Hello,
never done
Nutty.
that.
I've never done that. Hello, Nutty. Nice to see you. Nice to see you, mate.
I thought that was like a key part. I thought that was like a key part of the Fae. It's the same thing of like if you leave a shoe in what's it called? In the world of the Fae, they think that they have stolen something, which means that they have to give something back to the world of humans, but it doesn't say where, which means that they'll then suddenly give a shoe or a child's like shoe back into this random family. It's like, we just lost our kid. No. So that's another thing. Like they've got a weird form of like exchange, which again, I've not gone into it because I just don't get the mentality that the Fae comes from.
I quite like. I mean, the whimsical thing suits me. I can do daft whimsical, as you know, Saxius. We
don't say.
We were very whimsical, yes, in that game, and
borderline insane. No, sorry, that's a wrong thing. You were straight up insane.
I like whimsical creatures. And I will play them up. I will make them as silly as possible.
Well, one thing to remember with the Fae, though, is that how the Fae are depends on the specific setting you're playing in, and it's varies quite drastically. Like, in the original Peter Pan story, the fairies like Tinkerbell actually had a very short lifespan, and that by the end of the story, Tinkerbell is actually dead. Because the actual end of the story in the original Peter Pan is from later in Wendy's life, when it's Wendy's daughter having adventures with Peter Pan. Well, by that time, Tinkerbell just died of old age.
But time would pass differently for them, though, wouldn't they? Because remember when you were young and
well, that's the funny thing.
Every day felt like it was like an age.
Is that Peter Pan was cursed to actually like forget people whenever they died. So when Tinkerbell died, Peter Pan literally forgot the fact that she'd existed. Because part of his curse is that he can't ever have anything making him unhappy.
So I've never read the proper Peter Pan.
Of things in the world around him that would make him unhappy, he just like ignores them. It's why he has such a strangely flippant nature, is because literally nothing in the world that he interacts with is bad from his perspective of anyways.
So I mean I've watched the Disney Peter Pan. It's been a long
I
time
mean,
since I watched
we
it.
we
but,
all know that that
yeah,
is not the
yeah.
accurate version. It's
No,
the same with the
no.
Little Mermaid.
Yeah,
That is not the accurate version. I know the real version. It's
I've never
I read the
it,
original once when I was a child and like forgot about it. Then it wasn't until people were talking about like the right way to write Peter Pan in the last few years that I went back and reread the story as an adult. I'm like, huh, yeah, I can see how you could find a whole lot of inspiration in here. I mean, like you could actually do like an entire TV series with just Wendy's adventures with Peter Pan in Never Never Land because of the fact that Never Never Land had part of the reason why Peter Pan didn't get bored in Never Never Land is that it was constantly changing. Because like it was more a realm of imagination than physical reality. So it would be like, okay, like Hook. In the original story, Hook wasn't a proper enemy. He was just another person in Never Neverland, if I remember correctly. It's like that's
So
what
I
Disney
didn't
changed,
know
if I
all this.
remember right. It's
Ah.
well, now one thing that actually was real is the Native American people. Those were actually real people in Never Neverland, I think. It's very weird. It's like there's Peter Pan's not the only person who actually lives in Never Neverland, but there's very few of the people in Never Neverland are real. Most of them are just like weird, quasi figments of your imagination.
A bit like Alice in Wonderland. So it's like
Ye-
Wonderland is an imaginary world, really.
Yeah, something like that, I guess.
And that, of course, was turned into a D&D module series, Dungeon Land and Land Beyond the Magic Mirror.
Yeah,
no, thank you. That does not appeal to me.
I think it would. It's brutal.
No,
It's evil.
I know that it's brutal. I know that it's evil, but the whole thing of like we're going to be doing Alice in Wonderland, whimsical and deadly. It's like no, mind you, I don't like most modules. I usually sort of go, no, I don't want to. If I want to do something that is truly heinously evil, I'll pull out a Paladin in Hell.
Mm. Well,
Bearing in mind, Alice in Wonderland's written by a mathematician. So
did you watch that sci-fi series based on Alice in Wonderland, where it's an adult version of Alice, where it's basically a cyberpunk dystopia horror reimagining of Wonderland? Because like that sort of thing, I could see as having like serious meat for doing a game like that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it, but that the bizarre Wonderland is a bizarre place, and I liked it when my players that realization dawned on them that they were now in a D&D version of Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
But the module itself is a bit wonky. It's got its fun moments, but it's not the greatest. Not the greatest. What's actually just gone off to fetch? Paladin in Hell? All based on a famous piece of artwork from the Player's Handbook, the original AD&D Player's Handbook, which of course is a great piece of art. Right, I mean, for those of you who are wondering why we are off topic, this is typical. There it is. That is a version of that piece of artwork on the cover. We are pretty much off topic now because we've been talking. We stayed on topic for a good 2 hours and 40 minutes, didn't we?
did quite well.
Can I quickly just highlight one of the monsters you fight in Paladin in Hell within the first opening chapter? Invisible demonic trolls.
Nasty.
Yeah, that's what this little booklet here will give you. I've listened to a bunch of DMs on Thaco's Hammer, lovely podcast. Would absolutely recommend. Those nerds are hilarious. You'll see where I find some of my kindred spirit in two of their hosts. One of them has basically done a number of simulations for the Paladin in Hell, and it is just like even at level 20, you are going to be brutally beaten down. You're going to be in for a ride because you have to take into account all of the impact that going closer and closer to hell is going to have, not just to you, but to your magical items, to your ability to breathe, the monsters you encounter.
How well is hell structured in that? Because, of course, hell is meant to be a very, very orderly place.
Yeah, but hell is orderly in the sense of you have your 9 circles, and you've got all of your dukes and archdukes and counts all fighting each other in hell for the position of that Asmodeus holds. So it's neatly structured. It's a absolutely brutal campaign you will be taking your players through, and yeah, you are also going to be going down the River of Styx, along with I can't remember what exactly that, but it's some variation of harpies that is going to come. They try to lure you overboard and then into the river, and then you forget who you are.
Wait, harpies or sirens?
I can't remember which ones. It's one or the other, but they fly alongside because you can't swim in the River of Styx. So
I see. Well, I mean that is actually an interesting thing. It's like that the difference between harpies and sirens is kind of murky, even though the pop culture physical descriptions of them is drastically different. In the actual Greek myths, the descriptions were less specific. And then some harpies were actually described as having beautiful singing voices that could lure men into their doom.
Well, they do. That's why they attract sailors and how they hypnotize them, as it were.
But I believe that sirens were found near rocky coasts to lure sailors in for the ships to then shipwreck, and then they would go in and devour. Harpies would then fly in, much like birds, and then they would encapsulate you, pick you up, and fly away with you, or get you to jump over board and go for them.
Certainly what I did with my ones,
yeah. Again, this is what I've done with them. But my point is, Paladin in Hell, horrific one, and if I want to take people through a brutal campaign, that's the one I'll pull out. But that would be it'll be a one shot because you're not going to survive much longer than that.
Just for the record, Peter, I think you didn't catch a lot of the early start of the stream. We have on this stream we have gone through kobolds and their traps, charm effects, insanity, paralysis, level drain, save or die, monsters that have been changed from their standard form, and monsters that destroy items. That's pretty much what we've covered.
So we haven't done mind control yet.
No, we've done
that's under
charm,
sort of charm and insanity and that sort of thing.
Charm, domination. We've also done theft of players' property. We've done players versus charm. We have done what else were we doing? We've done poisons. We've done slimes. We've covered a wide variety of things where players either die, have their minds altered.
But the general sort of conclusion is that players, certainly nowadays, a lot of players tend to dislike any creatures that take away their chance to do what they want when they want to do it, whatever their character is good at, anything that takes away their progress, and anything that takes away their stuff. Basically, so a lot of that is seen as being unfair in a lot of gaming mentality. But our general belief is it's something you've got to lean into. You should play your player characters. You should play their fear of undead, because the ability of the undead to drain away your life force, your strength. You should do research regarding what you're going to be up against and plan accordingly in terms of equipment and spells, knowledge, hirelings, that sort of thing. Mitigating all of these effects is all part of being a good adventurer, an adventurer that wants to survive. And a good player should play that. But also, when these things happen, a good player should lean into it as an opportunity to role play. We spoke a lot earlier about role playing, forced player versus player, role playing charming, role playing insanity, and making it feel right, making it feel as if the character is behaving as a character would in that situation.
Daryl brought up an interesting point. Yeah.
Chaos mutations from Warhammer corruption mechanic. See, I haven't played enough Warhammer to know much about that.
It's something that you'll see in a feud games where basically what it is that your character gets, let's call it a wound. And that wound changes their appearance and maybe their abilities to a small extent. Like in your arm gets turned into a crab claw. And that, of course, changes whether you can, hold a sword.
And that, to me, that's cool. That's a role-playing opportunity.
But it's also a reflection of the whole thing that your character is being influenced by chaos, which is basically like dark, untampered magic. And that is not good, because then your character will physically mutate. Again, you can have a claw arm, claw hand, so it's like now you can't hold anything with it, but you can also do attacks with it, and you'll probably get some other cool things from it. But you can also go down the route of like, well, now you're gonna have some things that are just, it's gonna break your character concept.
Also, though, people who are really, really into the whole like designing their own character thing, like, oh yeah, by the way, your character now has red spikes instead of hair. Like, oh no, but I like having my hair. No, how could you do this to me?
Yeah, it's a role-playing opportunity.
Yeah, but
it was done in D&D in Red Steel.
Yeah,
you had that with a chance of mutating and things happening. So I've got one character who's from that setting, and his skin is currently red because he's got very angry recently.
Yeah, so this is like a major thing for like the Warhammer world, whether it's fantasy or 40k. This is a major thing that is going to be a part of it. Bringing it into D&D, not really the same impact, because it's the two systems and the two worlds are just not designed to intermix. I know that in Warhammer Fantasy, you can end up with enough chaos that your skull, your head basically bursts, and you've now got like Ghost Rider's flame skull for a head. But you can't be in human society anymore. Why? They will murder you. And it's not a question of like, oh, can you take them on? It's like, no, they will murder you. You have to run up more.
In Warhammer is very we don't like you if you're chaos tainted.
They don't like you've got any signs that you are non-human, and that's fully it. But that's the world. It's designed to take certain aspects in.
But in a game like Hyperborea, it's weird, and people might not trust you, but they're not going to kill you on sight. I mean, like, I actually had in one of my Hyperborea characters rolled a magical item table. It's like, because it's like a character that's starting at a higher level than one, decided to like roll and give everyone like 2 magic items. Well, one of the magic items that I rolled was a claw arm. How does that count as a magic item? I don't know. I didn't write the Hyperborea item table, but yeah. So my character starts out with a crab claw for her left arm.
That's cool, though. That's cool. I mean, I was trying to ask Peter, are you a father? Because that is a dad joke. Right. We are coming towards the end of the stream. And I would say the reason why I really wanted to start playing Warhammer Fantasy in the last couple of years, and Gingerbeard was running a game of it, but he had to stop running it because we didn't have time, which was a shame. We didn't get very far, so we didn't get into any of the real corruption mechanics or anything like that. So I've got no experience of them. I loved what I saw of Warhammer. It's Warhammer Fantasy. I liked it. I liked its dark grittiness, and I liked its lethality. I thought it was really, really cool to play. But we weren't able to keep playing that game, unfortunately. It went the way of however many
The dodo?
games have gone. Yeah, which is a shame. It was
That's
a shame. But I think we've covered a lot of things. We've got through a lot more than I really expected in this stream. If you're a player and a monster you hate, embrace that hatred. Embrace that passion you have towards hating that monster and manifest itself in the way you play your character and make your characters hate that monster, because monsters are there to be hated. They are there. Everyone, I'm going to say now, every DM should have the approach to monsters that Saxius has, because Saxius wants you to hate his monsters, but he wants you to enjoy hating them. I'm sure he does. Don't you really, Saxius? You do?
Listen.
You
do? What kind of questions are these? I just need my player characters to die. Like, how much more clear can I be? You come to my game to embrace the suck. Life will suck. The monsters will suck the joy out of you, and you keep coming back. It's not my problem; it's yours.
And your levels, and your strength, and your con, and everything else. Yes.
Listen, there will be a shell of a person when you're done. And when we hit that point, I'll take your character sheets, and you'll meet them again when you go back into the crypt, just as returned.
Yeah, Dirty History Hobbies. I think that that particular item, it might be off the table for a lot of modern games. Which is a shame, because it can make for fun role playing. Curses of all sorts can. But I'm going to have to bring the stream to a close. So, Mark Hawkman, you have a channel where you talk about taking stories from episodes of Star Trek and using them in your games. Do you not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you do. And Saxius has just started a channel where he talks about
it's trash.
Crunching, creating factions. You on at the moment, aren't you?
So at the moment I am finishing up and preparing to do my full sit down for doing how you actually do the whole running of factions, because my entire channel is based around how I DM, what I do as a DM, and my style, which is very detail oriented. I'll be going into other things, how I use flowcharts, how I keep track of things, how I generate a multitude of adventures, and how I keep on top of all the bullshit that I throw at my players. This is my style. I'm putting it out there so that others may sit down and go, "Ooh, I like this, I like that. I'll cherry pick out of this." But at the end of the day, I produce trash content. Come for it if you just need to kill some time. And hell, I lost a bet last year, so I have to now stream horror games. It's October. I can't.
Don't we all produce? I mean, we're just all amateur YouTubers who produce.
You convinced like 2,500 people that you produce something of worth. I mean,
you've convinced about 40 people so far.
I know, and I'm getting imposter syndrome here. What am I doing?
So subscribe to Mark Hawkman for his Star Trek storytelling. Subscribe to the Accounting DM for getting your inner Saxius and prepare to save versus Saxius. Andy, you don't have a channel. You just come along and play in my Call of Cthulhu game, in which you are reveling in playing a character who has completely lost the plot. Completely. And if anyone in chat, you are welcome to listen to if you want to listen to our Tuesday night Call of Cthulhu games. Apparently they're quite good, according to the players. I thoroughly enjoy them. I thoroughly enjoy the way the players get into the world. They seem to be enjoying what I'm doing with it, and enjoying Horror on the Orient Express, because it is a big, long, meaty, atmospheric campaign, and they're well into it. And Andy is playing a character with 0 sanity, which shouldn't be allowed by the rules, but it's fun. But I've got to bring this to a close now, so I've got to go to bed and go to work. So thank you, everybody in chat. Thank you, everybody who's been on the stream. We've had Bear. He had to go off to do something. I can't remember what he said he was doing. Iman, sadly, was feeling ill, so he had to drop off. Thank you for Mark Hawkman for jumping in, and Saxius and Andy for being with me almost from the start. Almost from the start. So cheers all. And I hope to run some more Call of Cthulhu before I go away to Canada at the end of the month. So I will try and run, or it might be something as soon as I get back. So I'll try and do something for Halloween, bonfire night type thing. So look out there, and thank you all. Cheers. I'm ending the stream now.